The Honourable Member for Kamukunji.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Since it is my first opportunity to speak in the 13th Parliament, I also want to thank the great, wonderful people of Kamukunji for bringing me to this august house. I want to pledge that, as I have done before, I would work for them humbly and respectfully, and work harder even for them in this Parliament. Speaking on the issue of the East African Legislative Assembly, I want to put this particular issue in the context, the global context, the continental context, and the regional context of the geopolitics of our country. And I think the East African community is one of the most important regional institutions, and perhaps the institution with the biggest potential in bringing together the people of the region, not only in terms of economic cooperation, but also eventually the main vision of the East African people is for an East African political federation. And knowing that, in fact, East Africa is our biggest trading partner and our biggest political allies, and the East African Legislative has been the assembly that legislates the laws of this region, it is very important that we send the best people, the best minds that we have in this country. And I must say that in the past elections that we had of the East African Legislative Assembly, unfortunately the case has always been to push people who have been rejected politically and to use the East African Legislative Assembly more like a garbage dump to get rid of people who perhaps have not been selected for leadership positions in our own country. And you know that the East African Legislative Assembly members are the face of Kenya. And what I think is that we must send the best minds that we have to be able to push the vision, the mission, and the aspiration of the East African people. If you send someone who has no clue, other than the fact that they have been given a position of payment and privilege, then we are failing in that particular objective. And I urge this House and the leadership of the political parties and the leadership of this country to take this particular matter very seriously and to send our best minds to represent us in the East African region, which is going to be a building block for the bigger vision of a united Africa that can play its role on the global arena, so that Africa can take its place in the international politics of the world, and we can be heard as a continent, and we can be players on the global stage. The East African community is just a beginning. It is the first steps for us to assert the fact that we want a stronger economic and political East Africa. Then we go to the Africa level, the Africa Union. And now we have the new trade agreement for the whole of Africa. The East African region will play an important role in that. And that's why I think we should be very, very serious in the people that we send there. It's not just a job for the boys and the girls. It's a job for people who can push us forward and can put our name up there and can develop laws and legislations that will lift up and make the East African region a regional power in Africa and a major player in global affairs. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I'll give the Honorable Andrew Okwome.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me the opportunity. Now, East African Community is a very important institution for the member states. I recall when the membership was still covering only 3 countries. And indeed, I also recall when Kenya was getting independence, and the East African Community was really the hope of the 3 countries that it would give us the federation. That has disappeared in the thin air, which is very disappointing. And because of this, I would really wish that as Kenya, we appoint people who can have a hope to unite the whole of East Africa, because what we see today is a conflict. If you take, for example, Lake Victoria, which should be uniting us, it has been a cause for some of the conflicts we have with Uganda and also with Tanzania. You remember Migingo? Most of the time, wars are there. Some of the people come from Uganda, whatever they pretend to be. They arrest our people, they go with them to Uganda, and whatever they do with them, God knows. So I think we want people who can really look at the issues regarding the problems we have as East African community countries and find a solution. We also need to have people there who can unite us commercially. I heard our president speaking when he met his counterpart in Tanzania. He was crying for commercial unity, the trade. The East African currency that we used to have before the East African community probably is one of the things that the current community should fight for, so that we have one currency, because that's what will also help us to ensure that the trade in East African community countries can be viable and help all the members in ensuring that we can have the East African community of our hope, the community that can be of our dream, the community that can move us from where we are to somewhere that can help us all in the trade and, more importantly, political side. We would like a political unity. That's what I referred to earlier when I was talking of the federation. When we have political unity, there are many other goods that we can be able to achieve. We can achieve so much if we are united. I only believe that we are going to give our partners very able members to serve us in this important unity we have in the East African community. Mr. Speaker, sir, thanks for having given me the opportunity, and I hope that my dream will be kept alive by those who will go to East African community. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Gilgil.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to support this nomination of these members, Mr. Speaker, and this list is very well thought out, and they know their work is also cut out, Mr. Speaker. And the issues that are being raised at the East Africa community, Mr. Speaker, the people who go there must know that they have to defend the position that Kenya holds in terms of our bilateral and multilateral relations in Africa and East Africa specifically, Mr. Speaker. And I hope that the team will also look at all manners as it's stipulated in terms of balance, in terms of even getting new blood, even as we do with institutional memory, Mr. Speaker. I hope that we can be able to also get new, fresh blood, to also get new ideas, to also take to EALA. Mr. Speaker, the issue of disputes that we have with our member states, Mr. Speaker, I think this is an issue that EALA members should be able to address with our neighbors. I mean, starting all the way from Migingo, starting from issues of trade and balances with us in Tanzania, issues of herders, issues of maize, issues of even Maasais across the two countries. Mr. Speaker, we have had issues between us and Tanzania. I hope that these members will defend the integrity of the boundaries of this country. They will defend that the position Kenya holds, that they hold the aspirations of all Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, that we all don't always give in all the time and we become the underdog all the time, Mr. Speaker. I hope we can be able to reclaim the position that Kenya holds in EALA and in EAC, Mr. Speaker. With those few words, I support the committee and hope that this work could be expedited so that you are able to deal with the timelines at the right time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The member for Keses. The member for Keses. Where is he? He's not here. Wow. Then let me give the member for Malava who was soliciting for a chance to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to support the committee members, and Mr. Speaker, I would urge them to develop regulations that would guide the House when it comes to actually electing these particular persons, because I recall, Mr. Speaker, in the last Parliament, we talk of regional representation, gender, etc., etc. But, Mr. Speaker, in the last Parliament, we voted actually 3 persons from one community to the East African Assembly. And we were almost voting in another 4th one if it were not an intervention that we do not have gender representation. So I would urge, Muya, you are very familiar with the case, you would actually help this Parliament to ensure that the persons we are voting in, we have actually regional representation in the country. And the persons who will be voted in, I would also imagine, there are persons really who have to represent Kenyans very well. Because I recall sometimes during the last Parliament, the then President of Tanzania, Magufuli, banned our chicks, 5,000 of them alive. I did not hear our representatives in the East African Assembly talking about it. He took away our 1,000 animals, cattle. I didn't hear any voice from our persons who are in the East African Assembly talking about it. So we would that, as Mbui was saying, that maybe the persons we also elect to the Assembly, there are persons really who have to represent our interests, speak about even the ills that are there that are affecting Kenyans. Otherwise, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support the names.
Thank you. Member for Bomachoge Borabu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have been looking forward to this particular address. It's the first one. Very quickly, I'd like to support the appointment of the ad hoc committee on the election of the members to the EALA. Mr. Speaker, I want to start by thanking God for the miracle of my election into this House. Mr. Speaker, I'm the Honorable Nolfason Obadia Barongo, MP for Bomachoge Borabu. Mr. Speaker, my journey to this House is also stuff of dreams. I was a vegetable vendor before today, now by the grace of God, an MP. A humbling and inspiring story for another day. Mr. Speaker, like many before me, I'd like to congratulate you and your able deputy as the heads of this assembly. I pray God to grant you good health and wisdom as you lead us in the making of a better country. Mr. Speaker, allow me to profusely thank the people of Bochi, Bombaba, Magenche, and Bokimonge wards for putting aside clanism and charting a new path of unity for Bomachoge Borabu. And they did so, Mr. Speaker, emphatically but peacefully. I want to promise, Mr. Speaker, that I will serve them with diligence and humility. Mr. Speaker, let me also single out my wife and the kids, Jemima and the kids, my mom and dad, siblings, relatives, many friends, my campaign team full of young dreamers for pulling a memorable victory in this election. The ODM party and my leader, the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, for issuing me with a ticket that helped my election into this House. Mr. Speaker, sir, not to forget my worthy opponents who did not petition my election. To all of these persons, I would like to say thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, you may know that Bomachoge Borabu is one of 2 Bomachoges in Kisii County, the other being Bomachoge Chache, represented here by my brother Alpha Miruka. My constituency, Mr. Speaker, has experienced tribal clashes in the past because we border Maasais. Thankfully, lately, peace has prevailed and business has been booming. Mr. Speaker, my constituency boasts of a school called Rio Kindo High School. Mr. Speaker, in last year's KCSE, a staggering 476 students out of 485 managed to score C+ and above. Allow me, Mr. Speaker, to praise the head teacher and the staff and the community, and most importantly, the students, for these excellent results. Mr. Speaker, I also had the opportunity of touring my constituency over the weekend. Some schools could be improved. A case in point is a school called Riabu, which has been a beacon of education in my constituency for a long time. Mr. Speaker, it is unthinkable to think that NG-CDF will not be there to rescue such schools as Riabu that really need much improvement. Mr. Speaker, I will also champion the elevation of Kenyanya Polytechnic to a national polytechnic and the construction of Gesabakwa Institute so that our students who cannot make it to university can also pursue their careers there. Mr. Speaker, I would like to, in the interest of time, sign off by saying how privileged I am to be the representative of the good people of Bomachoge Borabu and Kenyans at large, and I hope that the discussions we will have here will be geared towards bettering the lives of our people. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. First, I would like to support the committee and congratulate the chair and the entire committee for being nominated and elected to this.
Honorable members who have already spoken, it's advisable to log out so that you decongest the screen. I see Honorable Wajir Challenges still on the screen, unless you are anticipating to speak in the next motion, and several others. If you decongest the screen, you will help us in managing.
Okay, thank you. So I was congratulating the committee and also say that we are honored as a country today. I think we are hosting the Secretary General of the East African Community, Mr. Peter Mathuki, who is also Kenyan, who is in the country today with the Chief Justice of the East African Court. But Mr. Speaker, what I would like to state here is that as this committee gets down to work, there are very many important things that they need to do. We need to send a strong delegation to the East African community. As we do that, it is one onerous task that this committee has to ensure that they put together a criteria that brings us the best. While I want to acknowledge what my brother has said, Mbui, that we need to continuity in the East African community. It is sad that this is the only country that sweeps everybody out and brings in a new team. And therefore, when we get there as a country, we are disadvantaged because we have to start a fresh page. It is important that we retain 1 or 2 people at the East African community. I do not want to campaign for people there, but I think it is very important we do that. But again, I want to reiterate that we need to send quality representation at the East African Assembly. Quality representation. I think we had good representation in this assembly, and we look forward to having very good and quality representation. Mr. Speaker, sir, you know, during this time when EALA campaigns start, it is a very exciting time. And I want to urge the new members, when these campaigns for EALA start, please stay at the lobby, at the tea place.
Yes.
It is a very interesting time.
There's a point of order from the Honorable Wangwe. Give him.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to interrupt my colleague and very good friend, the Deputy Majority Leader, but I want to stand on Standing Order 83, read together with 95. Honorable Speaker, looking at the contribution of members towards this debate and the debate after this one. We look at the debate after Honorable Speaker as being very, very strongly also important. And I feel, Honorable Speaker, if we can call the member to reply so that we can also engage the next debate. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
As I finish.
Thank you, the Honorable Wangwe. I see quite a bit of interest. What I'll do, I'll give, after the Honorable Bayer, I'll give 3 on either side, then call the mover.
Okay, thank you. So I was
and
asking...
You have been doing very well in terms of time. Nobody has gone for more than 5 minutes, which is very good.
Okay. So I was telling the new members that during that, please stay in the lobby so you hear the people that are campaigning, hear them out well, listen to them so that we come back here and elect quality people. But more so, please engage them well as they come for campaigns. There'll be very intense campaign at the lobby, at the T. Please stay there so that we end up selecting and electing people that are very good quality. But I want to wish the team that is going to do this job, the Wanchikumuhia team, please do a good job for us as a country. Give this country honor by ensuring that we elect people that deserve to be in that assembly, not just because your party has said this person must go. This assembly must make that decision. I remember last election, when we were in this chamber, it was about what the party has said, whether the person is quality or not, yes, including the gentleman that my friend shot down. The party said, and therefore we went. I think this time we need to scrutinize everybody's CV. We look at the quality of persons we are selecting and taking there because it's about country. It's not about party and it's not about individuals. That's why this committee is a joint committee of the many parties. Let's not look at which party is sending who. Let's look at the quality of persons, but more so hear the people when they come here in this chamber to campaign. And I wish those that will come to campaign well, and wish the committee well as they do their job. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Oyula.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also contribute to this motion. Mr. Speaker, let me start by congratulating you and your deputy for having been elected to lead this House. Mr. Speaker, I also want to thank my people of Butula for giving me a second chance to represent them in this House. Mr. Speaker, Butula has been unfortunate in the past that one goes only one time. But this time, they gave me a second chance. I want to thank them most sincerely and assure them that I will work with them very closely. Mr. Speaker, as for this motion, I want to support the committee that has been appointed, but add that we need to make sure that the people we take to the EALA are qualified. They can represent our country very well, particularly in trade between our country and the other partners. Mr. Speaker, the quality of the people we take to EALA must be above board. We need to make sure that Kenya is well represented, that Kenya takes people who are going to lead the community into working together for the benefit of the people of East Africa. Mr. Speaker, we who live at the border with Uganda, we know what it is to be together with your neighbors. Mr. Speaker, if your neighbors are not cooperating with you, surely you may not have peace along your borders. Because of bad blood, you can get people fighting over very small issues. So let us have some people, Mr. Speaker, who will be good representatives of us at EALA. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I thank you once more for giving me this opportunity, and I thank the people of Butula for electing me second time. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Johanna Ngeno. Give him the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to also ventilate on this EALA issue. Mr. Speaker, I wish to say from the onset that I have no issue with the committee or the select committee which is going to be picking these members. The only thing, Mr. Speaker, is like what my colleagues have discussed, is that we need to get serious on this East African Parliament. So, Speaker, there are so many issues which needs to be ventilated in that Parliament, and we seem to be taking it for granted. And that is why even the question of one dominion, one united East Africa working together, or having even one leadership, Mr. Speaker, we are not making any serious progress because the people who are in that Parliament, Mr. Speaker, may not be taking up serious matters. Mr. Speaker, remember we have so many issues like cross-border clashes. We have a market that we need to look at because we have so many. If we could do trade, very good trade within East Africa, Mr. Speaker, I think we'll make serious progress. In my opinion, Mr. Speaker, I wish, like when you look at the formation of this House, Mr. Speaker, we have a fairly young people. When you look at the Senate, Mr. Speaker, we have a middle-aged people. Mr. Speaker, I was thinking this East African Parliament, we should send these older people, especially these people who've been contesting on presidency and all that, so that they can go and actually debate on heavy matters that touches on East Africa. Mr. Speaker, people like Wajir should be sent there, Mr. Speaker. I'm expecting in that list people like Wajir, people like Kalonzo Musyoka mwenyewe, people like Raila Odinga, people like Gideon Moi. These are the people, Mr. Speaker, I wish to see in that list, because instead of leaving them to roam around our country and actually making our leadership a little bit disrupted, why don't we send these people to that Parliament so that they can be debating on serious matters affecting the 3 or 4 countries which are in East Africa? So, Mr. Speaker, my suggestion is that the parties which are going to be picking these individuals, if you pick, please, pick those people. Pick those leaders. ODM should bring us here Raila Odinga. Wiper Party should bring us Kalonzo Musyoka. KANU should bring us Gideon Moi. You see, and even as UDA, we will bring the Kenya Kwanza, we will look maybe for Uhuru Kenyatta. If he wishes, he should also attend. He should be in that list. So Jubilee should bring us Uhuru Kenyatta, because we don't want these great men, these statesmen, to be roaming in the country and giving trouble to our president. They should be in East Africa, debating on matters that are affecting the 4 or 5 countries, and actually ensuring that the rules and the laws that are made in those countries, that are made in that Parliament, that affect the 4 countries, are made properly. So, Mr. Speaker, that is my submission, and I'm looking forward to the day that we'll be vetting those members in this House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Taveta. Member for Taveta, where is he? He logged in and left? Oh, there you are.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to address you again. I want to contribute to the motion and agree with my colleagues who have stated earlier that we need competent people who are able to address issues of multilateral and bilateral interests of Kenya, Mr. Speaker. So I recommend, especially those candidates who come from border towns like Taveta and other areas like Busia, to be considered in those positions, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The Honorable Omboko Milemba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I was among the very earliest people here. And thank you for this opportunity you've given me to make contribution on this particular matter. Let me begin by congratulating and supporting the list that we have been given of the members who are sitting on that list. The list is so strong. At least I see 2 people with CBS. I also see Ma'am Muya, who has served in that particular assembly and who will be one of the co-chairs. The East African community is a very old institution. The old one did leave several marks in Kenya, including parts of Upper Hill, which we refer to as community. The new one, which began in 1999 and was actualized in 2000, is the one that established this legislative assembly under its Article 9 of its assembly constitution. And is one institution that is very important for our regional coordination, especially on matters culture, trade, economy, and politics. And therefore, I'm looking forward that this team of people will vet and bring us names that really qualify to sit in this assembly. One other yarn I've seen of members who have spoken on this is the fact that we need high quality and even members representing us here with very good level of esteem. I think the search by the immediate former person who has spoken, Dikir here, was just the yearning to find high quality people who can command certain respect within the East African community so that when they walk, when they speak, when they refer to matters Kenyan represent us, they can be felt heavily. So he may have not necessarily just been speaking about the old guys who were in the election recently, but what is the stature of the man we are taking to the East African Assembly? So that when he walks around, he's like an ambassador somewhat, who is actually representing the Kenyan interest. And therefore, by his looks, his posture, his experience, it's just enough to actually make representation better. So therefore, I would wish to ask that this committee does its work very well. And when it comes to the elections itself, members will vet these people and take very high quality people to the assembly. The East African community, and EALA in particular, is so important because there are so many matters that are affecting us. But let me deal with the positive ones, because whenever we talk about this assembly, we tend to deal with a conflict. But we really need now trade between Kenya and Uganda, which has been one of our highest traders with Kenya until when Britain took over. And we need Tanzania because of the high number of plenty of cereals in Tanzania. And we need other products from Congo, which is part of now the expanded East African EALA. And therefore, I want to believe that the people who will be elected to this particular assembly will be people who can tap good relations that can actually improve the movement of goods between the borders so that we benefit from the trade between the East African bloc, and create an assembly that will make laws that will move us towards even closer cooperation, like I had the issue of common currency, like I had the issue of removing the tariff barriers of trade, particularly between Kenya and Tanzania, where we have a lot of grains. I hear there are 14 trade barriers still existing, which needs to be removed, and this will make us have a greater cooperation. Without much ado, Honorable Speaker, Madam Speaker, I beg to support. Thank you.
Speaker. Member for Igembe Central. We have one more person.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. May I start by saying that I'm grateful to God for this opportunity. I have been really looking for this chance to address, and I'm grateful that I've got it. May I start by thanking God and thanking the people of Igembe Central for really believing in me and trusting in my capacity to lead them as their area MP. May I also congratulate you, Madam Speaker, and the Speaker himself for your election as the Speaker and the Deputy. May I start by saying that I'm grateful to the people of Igembe Central for believing in me, the people of Wadero, Akirangondu, Jiawond, Kangeta, and Igembe East. Thank you very much, and I will fight very hard to deliver on my promises, and I won't let you down. Madam Speaker, I come from Igembe Central, a region that is known for producing what we call internationally as green gold, and locally we call it Marongi, Mira, and Kat. And as we talk, Madam Speaker, that is an industry that has been employing more than 500,000 people. And as we talk today and we deliberate on the team that will handle our cases in East Africa, I would like us to have a team that will represent Kenya and represent Kenya interests, politically, socially, and even economically. And I know Tanzania very well. They have a lot of Mira of their own in areas around the Tanga region, Mombo area, but they have not been giving us a chance to sell our Mira there. Therefore, I expect this team that will be picked to be a team that can negotiate on behalf of Meru farmers and traders so that we can have a chance to sell our green gold there. Madam Speaker, Meru Igembe Central is an area that has not been properly represented. Electricity connectivity is about 30%. For the last 10 years, not a single kilometer of tarmac. And as our president said the other day, we are giving subsidy to the production and not consumption. Right now, there is a strong famine, and we expect to see the government delivering scenes as we look forward to receiving the October rains, so that in the future we don't go back again to looking for famine relief. Because now we are receiving famine relief, which is bought at billions of shillings, and if that money was diverted to bringing sins, I believe the harvest could not be of that cost. The harvest could reduce that cost, and it will be of great benefit to the people of Meru and Igembe in particular. Madam Speaker, we have a area, Lower Igembe, which is very horrible, and we have some flowing water, though now they have dried. But when farmers go plowing, they cannot transport their farm produce to the market because of poor road network. And I believe if that area is well connected to tarmac, we can feed the whole of Meru County and Lower Eastern as we talk of food security. Madam Speaker, we cannot have food security in areas where there is no human security. Therefore, those areas that are prone to insecurity, if they are developed, and we have enough police stations like lower place like Yotene, we have a police station which is fully packed. I believe we can have enough food for ourselves and even assisting other counties. Madam Speaker, we also lack electricity, and our education standards have been going down because even schools are not connected to the electricity. And we are expecting to compete with other Kenyans who have electricity in their schools. All these are factors that are bringing our education standards down. And this monster known as delocalization has completely destroyed our education in Igembe, because most of the teachers who have been brought to handle institutions there are foreigners who do not know the situations in the area, and education standards have been going down. So I think we need people who can understand one another. Though they are Kenyans, we need Kenyans from our regions who knows our problems and who knows how we can handle our people. Because before the localization, those schools were doing good. Even the giant schools that were doing wonderful are going down. There must be something to be done, and I believe it will be done. Madam Speaker, as I went up, I believe we are going to have a team that will be representing us in East Africa, a team that is really able to negotiate, and a team that will represent us to our benefit. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity, and I thank God and I thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The last member for Manyata. Under this motion, we still have a chance until 9 p.m. Yes. So everyone will have a chance to make their maiden speech.
Thank you so much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I want to take this chance to support the committee, and I would like to say that, as many of the members have put it, we need members that understand our integrity and its purpose. Honorable Deputy Speaker, East African community has a lot of potential. We need to know how to increase our trade. We need to have common industries of things that affect our people. Currently, we are importing fertilizers and many other things. If the East Africa community that uses agriculture fertilizer can come together, we can do all those things together and do factories that can help our people. On the choice, on the method of choosing the members, Honorable Deputy Speaker, I'm of the idea that we need to have a better way of choosing members, because this assembly requires to be putting in agendas that affect our people. Honorable Deputy Speaker, today if you ask me what are the achievements of the last assembly of the EALA, I cannot say. And having even looked around in Google to see what they have contributed to, there is nothing to see. We need to have ways of checking their performance. And I'm hoping this assembly can come up with ideas of ensuring that we hold those members we send to the East African community to account. And like us, Honorable Deputy Speaker, if we don't do our work well, the people on the ground reprimand us. If it is the president, he has the assembly to check on him, and he has the other arms of government. But for the East Africa Legislative Association, Deputy Speaker, we need to come up with ways of ensuring that they do their work. And their main duty especially the ones that we are going to send, is to ensure that they defend the interests of Kenya in the East Africa community. Right now, Honorable Deputy Speaker, we have a trade deficit with Tanzania. We need to know how we can balance that. And it is up to those members to ensure that we achieve that and they bring in agendas and legislation that is going to help Kenya achieve that. With that, Honorable Deputy Speaker, I beg to support the committee given by the Majority Leader. Thank you.
Mover to reply.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me just take this opportunity to thank all the members who have contributed to this motion. Honorable Speaker, a few issues that have been mentioned, and I just want to pick up from where the Honorable Wajir Challenges, who is a member emeritus of EALA, on the issue of continuity, and really encourage the committee, even as you look at the nomination rules and the timelines, and the House, as we vote, is probably something that we need to look into, the issue of continuity, so that we do not have to lose everything that happened in the previous assembly because we are getting new members into the assembly. And I really want to encourage, even without, as my deputy leader, the Honorable Owen Baya said, without seeming to campaign for anybody, it is good to have some institutional memory. And since we had a number of members in the previous assembly who have now joined, the Honorable Mpuru Aburu is here now with us, the Honorable Wanjiku Muhia is now here with us, the Honorable Jamatia is here with us, and the Honorable Oburu Odinga is now in the Senate as Senator for Siaya. Therefore, we also had Simon Bogwa, the Honorable Abdikadir, Honorable Noor, and Honorable Fatuma Ibrahim, and the Honorable Kennedy Musyoka. The Honorable Abdikadir, I think, had also resigned to run for a parliamentary seat, but the Honorable Kennedy Musyoka, Simon Bogwa had also resigned, Honorable Noor, Honorable Fatuma Ibrahim are still there together with Kennedy Musyoka. Maybe something, when the time comes, if they're interested, we should be able to consider. Also, Honorable Speaker, there's something the Honorable Johanna Ngeno mentioned, and I don't know if you're still here, that it is indeed good, besides having institutional memory, is also very good to have leaders who have served the nation, leaders who are nationalists and statesmen who can serve in EALA. And I would really also want to join the Honorable Johanna Ngeno to encourage, especially ODM, WIPA, to consider nominating the Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka. I know the son was there, but maybe consider nominating the Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka to EALA. The Honorable Prime Minister, Emeritus Raila Odinga, should also consider being nominated in EALA. And Honorable Speaker, such a nomination will not only bestow honor on a leader who has been a Prime Minister in Kenya, but also dissuade him from what I have seen him trying to do in the recent past, attending the Bunge la Mwananchi forums at Jivanji Gardens. It is more honorable for Raila Odinga to be attending the East African Legislative Assembly other than Bunge la Mwananchi. And I am not saying this, Honorable Speaker, in any way to belittle Bunge la Mwananchi. Bunge la Mwananchi is a good place to engage with Kenyans. But Raila Odinga is the last person to pretend to be engaging with Kenyans and giving 20,000 shillings to border riders. It is actually an insult because it is him and Uhuru Kenyatta who led those border riders to the state of the economy where Kenya is in today. Therefore, I want to encourage our brothers and our sisters in ODM and the ODM leadership, please consider nominating the Honorable Raila Odinga, the Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, and beyond that, Honorable Speaker, beyond EALA, Honorable Speaker, it is probably time as a House we started thinking of how we engage our national leaders who lose in national elections. It is probably time we started thinking, how do we engage the caliber of leaders like Kalonzo Musyoka, Uhuru Kenyatta, Raila Odinga in our national conversations, and probably think of how we would even create the position of a leader of opposition, and that will give them a forum other than seeing the stature of Raila Odinga with Babu Owino, the Honorable Babu Owino, and the Honorable TJ Kajwang in Jivanji, the next day in Kariobangi. I hear tomorrow, the other day, you'll be in Kibra, inciting Kenyans. And let me tell you, Honorable Millie Odhiambo, you can shout from your seat. You can shout from your seat, but the issues I'm raising are pertinent issues. And I would encourage you, Millie Odhiambo, instead of shouting from your seat, engage with your leader in ODM to know what measures, what legislative measures would you bring to this assembly to deal with the question of the food prices in Kenya and the cost of living. Because it is not enough to incite Kenyans out there. It is better to use your leadership positions to bring agendas before the House that will improve the lot. Honorable Speaker, I know the Honorable Oudo is shouting relevance from his seat, because I know how it feels to lose an election. Honorable Oudo, I know how it feels to lose an election, and the people that led you to lose that election are now enjoying themselves, like President Uhuru Kenyatta is enjoying himself in retirement, having misled Raila Odinga into a trap to believe there was something called a deep state and a system that never existed. But the same Uhuru Kenyatta is the one, together with his handshake brother, who got this economy to where it is. Therefore, you cannot be pretending to be crying with the Kenyans that whose tears you're actually dancing on the tears of Kenyans that you led to where they are. It is the state capture that was perpetuated by the handshake brothers and the handshake government that has destroyed our economy, destroyed our country, and now you pretend that you will go and incite Kenyans in Jivanji, in Kariobangi, in Mathare, incite Kenyans, but Kenyans are more intelligent than you think. Kenyans know you are attempting to incite them. Kenyans are patient, and Kenyans will be patient to give this government an opportunity to resuscitate the dying economy that you killed. And no amount of shouting will deter us. Anyway, the Honorable Speaker, I now beg to reply and encourage our colleagues to nominate our leaders emeritus to the EALA Assembly. I want to encourage the Honorable Raila Odinga to apply. And the Honorable Anjiku Muhia, you must consider Raila Odinga's name as fairly as possible, together with the name of Kalonzo Musyoka. With that, Honorable Speaker, I beg to reply.
Honorable members, I wish to recognize the presence of guests and students from Gigiri Primary School in Samburu East constituency from Samburu County. Honorable members, I now wish to put the question, which is that acknowledging that the East Africa Legislative Assembly is established under Article 9 of the Treaty for Establishment of the East African Community as one of the key organs and institutions of the community responsible for the community's legislative matters, recognizing that Article 50 of the treaty provides for the election of members of the East African Legislative Assembly by respective partner states' legislatures in accordance with their primary procedures for the term of 5 years. Further aware that the East Africa Legislative Assembly Elections Act 2011 contemplates conclusion of the election of the members of a new assembly to be within 90 days before the expiry of the term of the subsisting assembly. Noting that The term of the current East African Legislative Assembly lapses on December 17, 2022, and cognizant of the need to urgently conclude the election process for the East African Legislative Assembly to commence transacting business of the East African Community. Now, therefore, in accordance with the provisions of Rule 9 of the Houses of Parliament, Joint Sitting Rules, the House resolves. Resolves 5, to establish a joint committee consisting of 7 members appointed by each of the Houses of Parliament to undertake the functions contemplated under the East African Legislative Assembly elections, election of members of the Assembly Rules of 2017. 6, that the following members shall represent the National Assembly in the Joint Committee. H, the Honorable Wanjiku Muhia MP, co-chairperson. I, the Honorable Dr. Makali Mulu, CBS MP. J, the Honorable Sabina Chege, CBS MP. K, the Honorable John Mutunga Kanyuthia, MP. L, the Honorable Daniel Nanok Ipuyo, MP. M, the Honorable Francis Sigei Kibiegon, EBS MP. N, the Honorable Ruth Adhiambo Busia, MP. And 7, that the officers of the clerks of the Houses of Parliament shall provide secretariat services to the Joint Committee in accordance with standing orders. And 7, that the Joint Committee shall report to the House within the timeline stipulated in the East Africa Legislative Assembly elections, election of members of the Assembly Rules of 2017. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. And will as many as of the contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it.
Order number 9, motion, development of a school feeding.
Honorable Speaker, I would like to take this opportunity first to second the motion which has been proposed by the majority leader. And it's very important that every new member, and even those who have come back, be given an opportunity to be able to give their maiden speech. Honorable Speaker, I would like to take this opportunity as well to congratulate you and our Speaker for having been elected in the last elections that we had in this Assembly for the speakership. I would also want to thank the Mukurweini people for having elected me as their Member of Parliament and having bestowed on me the mandate to take care of their issues in the next 5 years in Mukurweini. And as I say this, Honorable Speaker, I understand very well that this is just an opportunity that I've been given, not because I was the best in Mukurweini, but because the people of Mukurweini saw it fit to believe in the promises and also to the hope that we gave them. And I'll be very keen, I would like to promise that I'll be very keen to ensure that we fulfill as much as possible in terms of what we promised these people of Mukurweini. I would also want to thank my family who stood with me during this time, and particularly I would like to recognize one late Richard Kagushia, who is my father, who unfortunately passed on about 10 months before I was elected Member of Parliament. He would have been very happy to see me get to that position, as he believed in me quite a lot and in my potential. Honorable Speaker, I would like to promise the people of Mukurweini that I'm going to represent them, I'm going to be their voice, I'm going to be fearless, and I'm going to stand by what they want us to do. I'm particularly keen on developing Mukurweini infrastructure when it comes to the issue of road network. Whereas Nyeri County has been modestly received some good infrastructural projects, particularly on roads, Mukurweini constituency has lagged behind. Mukurweini constituency has not benefited from tarmac roads for the last 20 years. What we have had is very, very minute and very small contribution from the national kitty to the infrastructure and road network. I'm promising the people of Mukurweini, as we work together with the government infrastructure, as we work together with our Kenya Kwanza government, that we are going to be addressing the roads that were proposed and that were passed and that I was very much involved in lobbying. Unfortunately, were not done because there were no funds. As we are talking, I know we are in touch with the departments that are involved and Treasury to ensure that as much money is provided for Mukurweini as a constituency. I'm very keen on ensuring that the road that goes through Gekondi all the way to Dara, that is Kafuta, is actually completed, is done. I'm very keen to ensure that the road that goes from Ishamara all the way to Rotune, all the way to Gakonya, is also done. The road that goes from Maseno to Ndia, Kamolo, is also done. I'm very keen to ensure that we work with the government departments that are in charge of roads to ensure that the road that goes from Ikiranero all the way to Gumba to Guyoine is also done. I'm very keen also to ensure that the Gaikundo, Kanunga, Kaheti Road all the way to Gatiki is also done. So I will be pushing for these infrastructural projects. I am also going to be very keen on Karende, Wahondora, and also Karende, Nyakahuho, Irori Road, which we must ensure that they are done to ensure that our constituency also comes up to a level that other constituencies are enjoying. I'm also very keen on irrigation water in Mukurweini constituency, and so we'll be pushing for major projects in irrigation, particularly on larger Igajo area, which serves Mukurweini West. We're going to be pushing seriously on a Nyawamu irrigation scheme that serves Gekondi. We'll be ensuring that we complete the micro irrigation project that has already now started. I'll be very keen on Mungagaga water irrigation project so that we can ensure that most part of Mukurweini is covered. Madam Speaker, I'm encouraging our government to be very much concerned about the plight of our young people in this country. Mukurweini has had very many hardworking young people who have so far not been able to benefit from post-secondary school education. And I know this is an area that we want to invest in. In Mukurweini, we'll be looking at what we'll be calling Akili ni Mali, whereby we are going to be empowering young people to be able to gain education, skills, so that they are employable, and also they can be able to employ. So we'll be making use of technical institutions like Mukurweini Technical Institution and others, so that we can be able to promote our young people and ensure that they get off the shopping centers, they get off from the illicit brew, which of course is a great concern, especially in Mount Kenya region. I want to actually call upon our government to make the issue of illicit brew to be a national disaster, because it is ravaging our young people. It is making them not very useful in our community. And I want to, in future, bring a motion in this assembly, National Assembly, so that the issue of illicit brew can be declared a national disaster, and so that we can be able to fight manufacturing and production, distribution of illicit brew that has become a menace in this country. It has made our young people unproductive. It has made them zombies in some of the areas. They are not able to think on their own without consumption of the drug of addiction. Honorable Speaker, I'm also going to be very keen and working together with RELEC and Kenya Power to ensure that Mukurweini benefits fully from the last mile program. We have very many people in Mukurweini as we talk that still don't enjoy electricity at this time and age. In fact, Mukurweini
is probably the second worst connected constituency in Nyeri County from one of the neighboring sub-counties in the upper side of Nyeri. And so we'll be working together and ensuring that these people of Mukurweini actually get connected to electricity, that every home can be able to enjoy electricity. And I know if we support our people fully, they are very hardworking people. They will be keen on ensuring that they use their God-given capacity, hard work, and labor to produce so that they can be able to benefit and get empowered. I know for sure people of Mukurweini have been able to produce so much milk in this country that we have contributed largely to the development of our economy, to the growth of the economy through the dairy farming that happens in Mukurweini. We have our people in Mukurweini again who farm sweet potatoes, arrowroots, and when they are properly supported and given that capacity, they will be able to produce, and that will contribute to the economic growth of our country. Madam Speaker, I want to say that we as a country have to tap into the potential of our young people. And when I say this, I'm looking at the young people not only in Mukurweini, but also across the country, because we are not making proper use of the capacity that they have. We are not engaging them fully as a country so that they can be able to ensure that they get to the level and to the potential that is going to help us to exploit or make our economic growth in this country to the level we desire. Honorable Speaker, I beg to second this motion and hope that all my colleagues are going to get an opportunity to make their contribution today. Thank you.
Honorable members, I propose the question that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 33A, this House resolves to extend its sitting time today, Thursday, the 13th October 2022, until 9 p.m. Put the question. Will as many of this opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many of with the contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it. And honorable members, this is a kind request that as we move to the next order, I'll politely ask as a good gesture to those members who are new in the House and coming here for the first time and who need to make their maiden speeches because their electorate and constituents are waiting to hear them, if the senior members could at least cede space for them, I think that would be it's a collegial thing to do in the House. So I'm persuading, including my very good friend, Sir George, to, cede space if you can. But it's entirely up to you. I'm just persuading you to do that. I also see that I have members who had already spoken just shortly, and their cards are still in place. So kindly cede it so that you give other people an opportunity, because I think we can be able to get all the new members to be able to speak today, plus more. Like Mbere North, I think you just spoke, but I see you're still on the list with your card. Thank you. And now,
Order number 9, motion, development of a school feeding policy.
Sorry. Esli Muhanda.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I just take this opportunity to congratulate you for your appointment as the Deputy Speaker, specifically coming from the caucus of the women. Indeed, we are overjoyed. Honorable Speaker, I also take this opportunity to thank the people of Kakamega for electing me Tana overwhelmingly, and I make a special dedication of this motion to the child in Kakamega and to the child in Kenya as a whole who did not get a meal today. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that, aware that school meals are an important safety net for vulnerable children from food insecure households and communities in Kenya, appreciating that school meals have multiple benefits such as increased school enrollments and attendance, as well as a significant and positive contribution to reducing hunger and improving nutritional intake, noting that primary school completion rates have been found to be higher in schools with meals provided. Thus, school meals remain a core development intervention to support the country's achievements in the education sector, recognizing that some county governments have adopted direct and community-led initiatives for ECDE, school feeding programs, concerned that the exercise is not supported by a clear policy and budgetary framework and does not support pupils in primary and secondary schools who form the basic education ecosystem. Cognizant of the fact that where school meal programs have been initiated, it has been noted that they encounter different challenges that impede their effectiveness, including insufficient resources due to low budgetary allocation and budget cuts, lack of a school feeding policy, inadequate safe cooking and drinking water, drought and famine, poor food storage, a lengthy procurement process, insecurity, and dilapidated infrastructure, among others. This House therefore resolves that the Ministry of Education, through the relevant state department, immediately develops a school feeding policy to cover basic education pupils and sustain the program in order to ensure that children are maintained in schools for effective learning and to improve their well-being. Honorable Speaker, let me begin by defining school feeding as the provision of food, meals, snacks, or take-home incentives conditional upon school attendance to children and their households through school-based programs. The meals are either prepared at the school, in the community, or are delivered from centralized kitchens. Honorable Speaker, the Constitution of Kenya, Article 53C states that every child has a right to basic nutrition, shelter, and health care. Referring to the poverty index of 2022, 17% of Kenyan's population live below 200 shillings per day, meaning that 8.9 million Kenyans are in extreme poverty. Honorable Speaker, Kenya is ranked 86 out of the 117 qualifying countries on the 2019 Global Hunger Index. This classifying the country's situation as serious, and this shows the level of real dire need. World Food Programme has shown that most people who are most vulnerable to food security live in the dry areas, which cover 80% of the country. Children are the demographic group most vulnerable to hunger. This is because their growing bodies are more vulnerable, and about 29% of the children in rural areas and 20% of those living in towns have stunted growth. Honorable Speaker, COVID-19 pandemic did not make things easy. Honorable Speaker, we have had efforts to to have feeding programs in Kenya since the 1980s. We have had the Maziwa ya Nyayo. We have had NGOs like the Food for Education, who are also partnering with some members of parliament here, like the member of Dagoretti South. And because of the grave situation, we have also had honorable members having feeding programs in their areas, like Honorable Christopher Seka and Honorable Milemba, who have feeding programs. And we thank you, because it's not easy because of budgetary constraints. We equally have the Ministry of Education, which has some feeding programs in the ASAL areas and in the slum areas. Honorable Speaker, this is not enough, because the whole of Kenya needs the feeding program. Used primarily as to incentivize the enrollment and retention of rural children and girls, subsidized meal programs have played an integral part in realizing the country's goal of universal primary education. Historically, the involvement of non-governmental organizations has greatly limited the Kenyan government's role in the direction of stewardship of these programs. Reliance on donor support and management has subjected the programs to fluctuating and often conditional support from the actors. Financial strains and infrastructural challenges have been the major setback in Kenya's ability to successfully fund and operate its own feeding program. Noting that the effects of the recent COVID-19 pandemic has really affected the primary attendance of schools. And you find that most children have not been guaranteed completion of their school learning. The risks for children during this pandemic have included families falling into deeper poverty, threats to survival, health and child safety, and exacerbation of the learning crisis. Widespread unemployment and income loss has severely affected households' financial ability to keep students in school, and for the poorest households, budget constraints have caused them to keep their children out of school. When schools reopened, in many parts of my county, Kakamega, children have not reported to school. Honorable Speaker, for the sake of that poor child in Kenya who fainted in front of the parade of food, for the sake of the poor parents, for the sake of us having high retention, for the sake of the child who fell prey of getting goodies along the road because they did not have food and eventually became pregnant, and for the sake of the children in the drought areas, and for the sake of the malnourished children, the school feeding program must work. Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, I say that it's important that in order for the government to ensure 100% transition from pre-primary to primary and to secondary enrollment and attendance, school meals are an important visual safety net strategy for the disadvantaged, vulnerable majority of school-going children facing security challenges in Kenyan households and communities. Therefore, I wish to request honorable members to support me and resolve that the government, through the Ministry of Education, through the relevant state departments, must develop a school feeding policy to ensure a coordinated approach to provision of school meals to learners at all basic levels of education, and propose budgetary allocation to sustain this program in order to ensure that children are maintained in schools for effective learning. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move, and I now request Honorable Omboko Milemba to second this motion. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And let me congratulate Honorable LC of Kakamega County for for moving this motion on school feeding program. I'll be very brief that the earliest signs of trying to introduce school feeding program in Kenya can be traced as early as 1941, when the colonial government tried to introduce what was called the first national school meals policy, mainly to give proteins to students because the children were being fed a lot on carbohydrates. But the second most pronounced one would then be what the mover mentioned as the Nyayo milk, or maziwa ya Nyayo, which lasted for a period of about 10 years from the 1980s to 1990s. And put it in perspective that later on, this parliament tried to introduce maziwa ya Nyayo through a bill that was introduced by a nominated member of parliament by the name of Beatrice Kwamboka, for those who remember, but it did not go through because when they looked at the costing, they thought it was too expensive for those who were in the 11th parliament. And the cost was approximated to be 1 billion per week, and when the parliament calculated, they thought it was not really possible. But the truth is that this is a program that can be confronted just the same way we have confronted free education for primary and subsidized second school education, if this parliament will have its voice on it. I also wish to indicate that the Kenyan government currently has had some interventions on a school feeding program through the Ministry of Education as follows. That currently the Ministry of Education, in support with other partners, is able to provide food in 10 counties to all students, mainly from the Asal, Makueni and other Asal regions, which most of you members of parliament are aware of, receive this food. They are providing this food all the way from grade 1 to class 8. And they also provide what is called fortified porridge to the young children in those areas. There has also been an attempt by the Kenyan government currently to provide the same program in informal sectors. Just to mention Nairobi here, areas like Mathare, I think Kibera, but I can even widen and go to Kisumu. Obunga is receiving part of these foods, and in Kakamega, Malemba areas, Honorable, you are here, could be receiving this. You know I have the background of education. So the Kenyan government is trying to do something to provide meals in schools. What is the cost? Currently, the government is using a budget of 1.8 billion to do what I've just talked about. And therefore, it shows very clearly that it is possible to actually achieve this if this House pronounces itself on this matter and actually urges and enforces that the government provides a budget for school feeding. What would be the advantages of school feeding? I take you to the Millennium Development Goals, which envisage that by the year 2015, every learner in primary and basic education will be able to finish her education, whether a girl or a boy. But currently, most of the girls do fall out because they have to be engaged in the domestic course in food production, while the boys are also engaged in issues of livestock keeping. And therefore, if this good motion is pronounced on by this parliament, we shall safeguard all these students to be in school so that we retain them in school, and they also transist in order to achieve what is the 100% determination that all students who go through primary must transit to secondary 100%. And more so, remember that in the Education Act, basic education is not only free, but it's supposed to be compulsory. So this is a program that will actually make sure that students are in school. Honorable Speaker, without much ado, I've had my own experience with the school feeding program. I must acknowledge Honorable Aseka, who tutored me into this. In my own constituency, we use partners and other sources to provide lunch for students in schools, most of the candidates. And it's working for me, it's popular. I want to tell this House that it has increased transition and also attendance. For instance, in 2017, the candidates in class 8 were only about 2,000. But the candidates last year went as high as 3,400 because of this program of food in schools. I therefore want to urge this House to support this motion and urge the government to create a budget for food, the feeding program in our schools. And Honorable Speaker, because I want many members to contribute to this, I'll not go very far. It's a matter that is with us. It is with you in your constituencies. You can feel it. You see the students who are hungry and come back home and go back to school by just taking water. Honorable Speaker, I beg to second.
Honorable members, I propose the question, which is that aware that the school meals are an important safety net for vulnerable children and for food insecure households and communities in Kenya, appreciating that school meals have multiple benefits, such as increased school enrollment and attendance, as well as significant and positive contribution to reducing hunger and improving nutritional intake, and noting that primary school completion rates have found to be higher in schools with meals provided. Thus, school meals remain a core development intervention to support the country's achievements in the education sector. Recognizing that some county governments have adopted direct and community-led initiatives for the early childhood development education school feeding programs, and also concerned that the exercise is not supported by a clear policy and budgetary framework and does not support pupils by a clear policy and budgetary framework and does not support pupils and secondary schools who form the basic education ecosystem, and cognizant of the fact that where the school meal programs have been initiated, it has been noted that they encounter different challenges that impede their effectiveness, including insufficient resources due to low budgetary allocation and budget cuts, lack of school feeding policy, inadequate safe cooking, drinking water, drought and famine, poor food storage, a lengthy procurement process, insecurity, and dilapidated infrastructure, among others. The House therefore resolves that the Ministry of Education, through the relevant state department, immediately develops a school feeding policy to cover basic education pupils and sustain the program in order to ensure that children are maintained in schools for effective learning and to improve their well-being. Honorable members, I see that there are many members who want to contribute. I now call upon the member for West Pokot County. Member for West Pokot County is not here. I now call the member for Matungulu. Okay.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. First, on the onset, I want to thank the people of Matungulu for electing me to this Augusta House for the third term. I want to thank you, Madam Speaker, for your election as the Speaker, Deputy Speaker of this House. I want to thank my sister, Essie, for bringing up this motion to deal with the school feeding program in Kenya. Members, I want to thank all of you for
for the support you have given us when we are working on entrenching CDF into the Constitution. I want to report to you members, we have worked tirelessly with Honorable Gishimo and made sure that the entire legislation, the working of the budgets, and the figures need to be entrenched in the Constitution are done. The work beyond us is now beyond our hands. We submitted to the Table House, and it's forwarded to the Speaker. By the time we come back from recess, I believe we'll start the journey to amend the Constitution to entrench CDF. Why are we keen on this is because that members of Parliament are very key to this motion of feeding program. And I believe if we increase the allocation within the CDF, the allocation within the GAF for the women, have oversight authority and stimulus economic fund in the Constitution, we'll be in a position to feed our children in the entire country as members of Parliament. Madam Speaker, I believe this House has the power to make laws, to give direction, and I believe what we have started with Honorable Kishimo will be able even to sort out the less budget, which has been talked about by Honorable Milema Omboko, through the National Government Constituency Fund. Madam Speaker, when we begin this journey, I want to urge members, let's be vigilant and know who is our enemy. Members, you need to understand that the National Government Constituency Fund 2015, the same enemy is in court again to make it unconstitutional. And if we want to have such motion to proceed and have enough funding, Madam Speaker, we must think outside the box and move and walk the talk above the bar. And that's why I and Honorable Gishimo, we have taken the bold step to amend the Constitution to entrench these funds in the Constitution to delink them from any interference from the courts. I want to say very clearly, if members, and what we are proposing in the amendment to entrench CDF or National Government Constituency Fund, GAF, and the Empowerment Fund in the Constitution, Madam Speaker, will not be bothered to ask government to deal with school feeding program. It will be one of your priority as a national leader from this House to budget for feeding program inside your constituency. Members, let's look at this job very seriously. I'm very sure if we increase CDF from 2.5% to 5%, each member here will have an opportunity to feed the Kenyan children in this country without coming to cry for the government to give us subsidy, to give us extra food for the schools. I want to thank Madam Honorable Esi. It is a consignment of a motion which I know members in this House will be able to approve. Once we come back from recess and the journey to amend the Constitution, members, it is the benefit of the Kenyans who brought you into this House. And I believe once we entrench CDF, GAF, and we have economic stimulus fund in the Constitution, we'll be in a position to appropriate money accordingly without begging anybody as members of Parliament. Members, it is very clear. Honorable Kamket, we are not dealing with cows here. We are talking of serious matters of feeding students in this country. What is out of it? Madam Speaker, what I'm saying to members is this. After serving 2 terms in this House, and please members who have just come in, it will be very difficult if you don't have CDF. It will be very difficult in January, whereby you are not able to give students bursaries. It will be very difficult come to January, come to next year, once this motion goes through in this House, to feed students without funds. We are the people who appropriate funds in this house. We are the people who give other departments of government funds in this country. I don't foresee why we cannot allocate and give funds to the national government affirmative action to feed Kenyan kids in this country. Madam Speaker, this house, we must rise above board. Members, I want to thank you. When we started this journey, we were demanded to get only 50 signatures to bring this motion to the House. I want to thank you. Even Kamukunji himself signed, because we have 335 members supporting.
Honorable Member for Tiati, you're out of order. You will not catch the Speaker's eye by shouting out loud from the corner of the chamber. After you've just walked in, let the member finish his submission.
Madam Speaker, it is good you need to tame some of these people. Because here we are talking of kids in primary school, in secondary school. Parents cannot afford school fees. Parents cannot afford 3 meals a day. This is a motion whereby every member of parliament should work with it till as we move for recess and come back and work as a team to make sure that we provide funds whereby you are the oversight manager. Members, you are being looked at the outside world as if we were the people who manage CDF. I want to tell Kenyans today, Honorable Mule, Honorable Raso, Honorable Kishimo does not sign any penny for CDF. We only offer oversight. There is a committee at the constituency which does that. What other devolved government do we need in this country if it's not national government affirmative action? And I want to urge the judiciary, please, not everybody walks into your courts and you listen to them because they have just been given propaganda, ESI. They have no clue how much members of parliament have assisted students from Form 1 to university without paying school fees. There is no other way we are going to elevate poverty in this country without funds on the grassroots. We have the county government, which is doing its duty. But as member of parliament, every parent, every Kenyan, the weekend comes, they are looking at you to make sure that you help them to make sure that the kids are in school. This motion, to feed them, they are looking upon you as members of parliament to make sure that come January, every primary school, every secondary school has enough money to feed the school, to feed the students. Madam Speaker, if we have money to allocate from our kitty for school feeding programs, we'll tell the principals and head teachers to assure that students are in school until we get enough money to pay school fees. They should not be sending kids to home every weekend. They should not be sending students back to their parents because they don't have enough money to keep the students. Let's work together as members, entrench CDF in the Constitution, entrench Gov in the Constitution, and make sure that the provision to feed our kids for Kenya, it is in the next legislation we are going to do for CDF in this country to maintain students in school. I want to urge principals from this floor, please maintain students in schools so that they can learn and prepare for exams before December. And once we sort out these menace of national government affirmative action, we are going to send checks to the schools and make sure that you get enough money to pay the debts of feeding the schools and make sure that you have enough money for January for students to be in school.
Honorable Member, I think let's give an opportunity. There are many new members who have not made their maiden speeches. I now call upon the member for Matayos constituency, and he'll be followed by member for Samburu County, and I think we'll give a second chance to the member for West Pokot, who wasn't there when I called her earlier. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. Madam Speaker, I want to thank the people of Matayos constituency in Busia County for giving me a third term to serve them as their member. That goes a long way to demonstrate the confidence they have in me, and I want to assure them that I'll give them my best so that we develop on what we have started with them. I want to be in the rankings of the Honorable Duale, the Honorable Milio Diambo, the Honorable Moroto, and many others who have served 5 terms and beyond. Madam Speaker, I also want to congratulate you on your election as our Deputy Speaker. But Madam Speaker, I want to register my disappointment that I came to this House a few minutes after 1, and on that queue, I was number 10. I have seen members who have come after me, including one member who came and I assisted to slot in his card, given a chance to speak, and go, despite even my appeal to the substantive speaker to give me an opportunity, because I've just from the ward. I have been in the hospital for about 2 weeks, and I was operated upon, Madam, in the neck. This is the first time I'm appearing here without a caller. I thought I should have been given a chance to speak to these important motions, including the one that has just passed, which I wanted to make a comment on, and which I would like to comment on even after it has been done with, because I realized that the joint committee, in as much as it has members of ability to serve or to elect our members to the EALA, it is not regionally balanced. It is not religiously balanced. It is going against the tenets of the Constitution. But having said that, Madam Speaker, this motion, moved by the Honorable Elsie, the member for Kakamega, is very worthy being before this House. That, Madam Speaker, she is talking about developing a policy, and I want members to mark the word policy. I know all of us are agreed on the idea that we should have school feeding programs, but the motion is talking about the government developing a policy on the school feeding program. We have had various programs, very haphazardly developed in the country, some by the county governments, others by sometimes the national government providing food to some institutions, but there's no policy. If a policy was put in place, we will have no problem in attracting access of our children to the schools. We will have no problem in maintaining in completion. We will have no problem in having them stay in school throughout. We need a policy for this, like Mheshimiwa Omboko Milemba said. The Nyayo milk in the 19s, actually it came in the late 70s, around 79. Some of us enjoyed it. And it went on up to sometimes after the middle 80s. Many children were in school. We really implore that this House, as members, we should support this motion for the government to develop a policy that will make sure that our children's well-being, that is nutrition and health, are maintained, and to ensure that they are kept in school and that they are able to learn without problems. Madam Speaker, I want to insist that we want this Parliament to give fairness to members, that what is on the queue, hello, can I have Madam Speaker listening? That what is on your queue there should either be reflected on our tablets here or on the walls, so that I know that I'm number 2, I should speak as the second person. But we know that you also enjoy the discretion as per the standing orders. I don't have to sit here for 3 hours and the member comes in, speaks and leaves. Madam Speaker, that is very unfair to some of us members. And I also want to implore you that you do another induction. Members have not been inducted enough. While seated here, I have seen 2 members just cross from here, go. Cross from here, go. Can you organize for an induction, please? I support, Madam Speaker.
Thank you for the feedback, member for Matayos. I now call upon member for I think Mwatate. Peter Sheikh, I don't know if it's correct.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity you've given me to make a maiden speech in this House. I've been in the queue for the last 6 days, but I thank God for the opportunity I've got today. My names are Peter Shake. By the grace of God, I'm a born-again Christian, and at the same time, a canon in the Anglican Church. So first, I'd like to thank the Almighty God and the people of Mwatate for giving me this special opportunity to serve them as their 5th member of Parliament. I don't take it for granted, as it is indeed a great honor and privilege you have given me. My great people of Mwatate, I assure you that I'll serve you with a lot of commitment, tirelessly, and with dedication. Special appreciation to my family and friends for offering total support before, during, and after the elections. Secondly, I want to take this opportunity, Madam Speaker, to congratulate you and the Speaker for being elected to serve in this 13th Parliament as Deputy Speaker and Speaker. Not forgetting also to congratulate my predecessor by the name of Andrew Mwadime, who is now the Taita Taveta County Governor. For his election, I wish him well in his new elective position. Mwatate constituency has got its own uniqueness and challenges at the same time. One, electricity. Electricity connectivity has been a nightmare in Mwatate. We are having only 30% connectivity in Mwatate. And now that one is creating a lot of issues in terms of employment of our youth. We've got TVTs there. The youth have trained and they have graduated. Some of them are welders, and they have not been able to access electricity so that they can be able to open Juakali workshops. So I'm requesting the government through this honorable House, at least to make sure that we add the grid of electricity in Mwatate so that we help our youth and to get them out of unemployment. Secondly, the roads are in very poor states. I've been hearing from the last regime that 10,000 kilometers of roads have been constructed. I'm not good in mathematics, but when I try to divide the 10,000 by the 47 counties we are having, I found that what we had got in Taita Taveta as a whole is only 40 kilometers of tarmac road. Then I was thinking that our county has been shortchanged, because in terms of development, we found that some counties are more developed or are getting more development more than our county. So I'm requesting the new government, when they are doing a budget for the next roads they want to construct, maybe they give Taita Taveta some more kilometers so that we have an access to our homes, in fact, through those tarmac roads. So that is my request. Another thing is water. We've been having a lot of problems in terms of getting water. Water is scarce. In fact, in Matate constituency. Now I'm requesting the government through this honorable house, if it can organize so that we tap water from Taveta. We've got a lot of water from Taveta, which is our neighboring constituency, almost 80 kilometers. So that they can tap the water to Matate to help our people of Matate get enough water for domestic use and for irrigation. Matate is also a constituency which houses the headquarters of Taita Taveta County, and also a business hub which is growing very fast. The economic activities of Matate are basically mining. Almost 70% of Taita Taveta, Matate included, is composed of all types of mines. Name any mineral, it is there. So our economic activity there is mostly mining. Our youth are there at the mines. And they're having problems, in fact, because we are not having machinery to help them explore the minerals so that we can change the economy of Matate. So my request is also for the current government to make sure they provide machinery so that they can use the machinery for mining purposes to lift the economy of Matate. In fact, in the near future, I'll bring a motion to declare mining in Taita Taveta as an economic activity. When the government is supporting Mira, when the government is supporting coffee, tea, the same also should be done to our miners, small-scale miners, so that we tap the minerals to help our people develop. Last but not least, Madam Speaker, the motion which is in front of us, the school feeding program. In fact, let me say that due to this drought, Matate has been hit hard, especially the school children. A lot of them have been dropping out. In fact, in the first term. Second term, as an MP of the area, by God's grace, I managed to introduce a school feeding program for the 68 primary schools of ours, and up to now, they are food sufficient in the primary schools. But that one is not going to take more time. I think by the end of this term, then I think I'll not make it again to support them in terms of that program. So I support the motion. And lastly, let me say that God bless Kenya, God bless Matate. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The next chance will go to the county element of Samburu County.
I'm speaking in this house, and I'm so grateful. Secondly, let me thank the great people of Samburu for giving me this voice to represent them in this house. I'm so grateful for them for electing me as their member of county. I've started this journey long time ago, 15 years down the line, and I'm so humbled for the trust they have bestowed upon me this time, and I promise to serve them diligently, without biasness, and with all the respect that they deserve. Thirdly, let me also thank our president, the president of this country, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, for the support he offered to me during this campaign time, and also for him being elected as the president of this country. He's also my party leader, and I'm so grateful for the support and the plans that he has for this country, because we know that we inherited a country which the economy has really gone down. The population is really suffering, and I understand from his agenda that he has so good programs that will put this country back to the line again. Programs like the Hustler Fund, the housing program, the universal health care program. These programs are really going to support and help our people. And I believe that this Honorable House will give him the support that he requires to be able to implement this program, and the programs will be able to uplift the life of our people. Thirdly, I come from a region that is currently hardly hit by the drought. I think we have all read from the televisions and also from the press statements given by the members from that region, the northern Kenya. We are really faced by very hard drought. Our people are really suffering because of hunger. We have lost a lot of livestock. We are also experiencing a lot of our children dropping out of school because their parents are not able to pay for the school fees. The schools are not also able to feed the children. So we are suffering both in homes, and also our children are suffering back in the schools. The county is facing a severe drought, and the trend is really worsening each and every day. The household food security has been highly affected, and there has been minimal harvest in the agro-pastoral areas. Water has also become a major challenge for both human and livestock, and the discharge levels has really gone down, and most strategic boreholes have either broken down or the discharge levels are really going down. Conflict over pasture have also erupted in most of the parts in the county, and as a member representing the county, I would request the government to spearhead the support and the interventions that will really address the suffering that people are really undergoing in that region. We are talking of Samburu, Marsabit, Isiolo, West Pokot, and parts of Turkana. And if the government cannot do anything, we are fearing that we are going to lose lives. This week I was in the county, and we were reported of an old man who has passed on due to hunger. So I'm here requesting the government to fast-track the interventions, and even the development partners who are working in this country. If there is any kind of support they can be able to give us, please, we are requesting for any kind of support, and any other good Kenyan who is really having the heart of supporting people. So I thank you very much for giving this opportunity for the school feeding program. I really support that it can be reinstated so that we can have retention of our children back in schools, especially now that the parents are not even able to pay for their school fees. And thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving this opportunity. Maybe I can donate some of the minutes for the members who have not spoken. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The next chance will go to the member for Wajir South, Honorable Mohammed Ado.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. I would like to thank the people of Wajir South for electing me their representative in this House. I would like to thank the hundreds of volunteers who helped me through the campaign period, who showed confidence in me and my leadership and made a reality what we were looking for. I represent Wajir South, which is the second largest constituency in this country, second only to North Hor in Marsabit. The size of Wajir South is about 23,000 square kilometers. To give you a snapshot, that is size of Nairobi, central Kenya, and western combined. And it's represented by one member of parliament. I believe that is a blot on the conscience of us Kenyans. We've been shortchanged many times. There have been boundary reviews of constituencies, and hopefully, we hope this time, justice, equity, and even-handedness will prevail. Wajir South has 4 sub-counties with only 2 fully operational. The other 2 are a work in progress. The sheer size of the constituency makes it really difficult for the delivery of service, not just from the Member of Parliament and other elected leaders, but also government workers and aid workers who are in the process of alleviating the biting drought afflicting my people at this time. Now, drought is a big problem right now for the people of Wajir South. Over the years, we've seen cyclical droughts that have decimated livestock and made the people really weak. And over the past 5 years, we've had the lethal mix of the COVID-19 pandemic, the locust invasion, as well as the droughts that we've seen. Last year, it was declared a national disaster. This year, again, we are talking of a drought, and it only is getting worse and worse by the day. This is the work of climate change, and it is here to stay with us. And it's about time we learned to adapt and live with climate change. It's a global phenomenon, not much of our own making, but we are bearing the brunt of the ruthlessness in which Western countries, industrialized countries, have dealt with our environment. But again, adapt we must, because if we don't, then we will be having even more problems. And right now, there are a lot of discussions going on in not just my constituency and the greater Wajir County, but also the other parts of the country which are afflicted by the dry spell. That pastoralism, as we have seen over the ages, is untenable. We can no longer continue to chase rainfall because it's become few and far between. What we need is to adapt and change our lifestyles so that we get to live a much better life than the one we are living right now, because every year we are seeing caravans of relief convoys taking food to the people, to the extent we've been reduced to a people dependent on the goodwill of others. We are talking about agro-pastoralism, more settled farming, as well as keeping livestock, which is a prized source of livelihood for the people of the north, where Wajir South is. We can no longer continue as our forefathers to chase the rain, even if it means crossing the borders, because there is very little rain due to the phenomenon we are facing. Now we are talking about agriculture as an alternative mainstay for our people so that they can grow their own food and fodder for their livestock. That way we will be able to keep on practicing our prized mainstay, that is pastoralism and the rearing of animals, at the same time grow our own food. This is where we are headed, and we will be seeking as much help as possible in this direction. Right now, as we speak, there are throngs of aid workers crisscrossing Wajir County. The county government has rejigged its budget and is offering relief aid to the people. We are thankful to the county governor. We are also thankful to organizations like Save the Children, the Kenya Red Cross, the United Nations Children's Fund, and the many others, including the World Vision, who are giving life-saving aid and water to the people of my constituency. There are 7 wards in my constituency, and out of those 7 wards, 3 of them are facing shortages of water. So as you can see, my work is really cut out for me, as I am representing people who are facing all those problems that I have listed. And again, Madam Speaker, we have a fantastic motion in front of us today, one that deals with provision of school meals to students. Remembering my childhood and growing up in northeastern Kenya, it's actually did a big difference keeping us in schools. School meals really contributed to many of us remaining in school because of the abject poverty most of the people there were living under and still do to this day. But again, I'm in support of this motion, yes, but we have even a more pressing problem in northeastern Kenya because of the action of the former government 2 years ago, in which, with a stroke of a pen, 5,000 teachers were recalled from the region because of insecurity. Today, almost every other school is manned by 1 teacher. In my constituency alone, we have a shortage of 300 school teachers. Some of the schools in my constituency are manned by 1 teacher. Some of them have been closed. This is quite unfair. And we are bringing up a generation, which I call the lost generation, which has been forced to go through the steps of schooling for those 2 years, but have learned nothing. We are appealing to the Teacher Service Commission, because I don't know what else to call it. This is marginalization being brought through the back door after we thought the promulgation of the new constitution in 2010 had done away with that practice which had been visited upon us by the previous regimes. What we need is a return of our teachers back to the schools so that the young Kenyans living in that part of the country can get education. We have, I thought I had 10 minutes, Madam Speaker.
Yes, and they are almost over. Just 1 minute or so.
So in summary, I'd like to say the teachers need to go back to the schools. The provision of school feeding, the funding for school feeding program will go a long way. But again, for students who don't have teachers, it doesn't mean much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The next chance will go to the member of Embakasi West, Honorable Mark Mwenje.
Finally. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Like most new members will say, we've been waiting for quite a while. Being my maiden speech, let me start by congratulating all who've been elected, members of Parliament. I also want to go through a vote of thanks, first to the Almighty God for giving me this chance, to the people of Embakasi West who voted for me, to my family, my wife, my kids, my brother, and all those who campaigned with me in Embakasi West. I want to thank them for their support. Madam Speaker, it's obvious that my surname is quite common in Parliament, so I recognize that my father served in this house. Actually, I think he cut out his name seated right here. So without whom I wouldn't be here. And to those members who are on their 3rd term, including yourself, Madam Speaker, at times a good name is its own reward. I also recognize some of my late father's friends who campaigned with me, the likes of Honorable Commander Ndolo. There are so many of them, I can't mention all their names, who supported me. And the Azimio family, in Nairobi, comprising of Jubilee and ODM. I thank them. And also we wish to thank the first Member of Parliament for Embakasi West, George Deuri, for his service, for conceding, and for his candor. I move on to Embakasi West, where during the campaigns there are quite a number of issues that we spoke, but I know I can't speak all of them here. But the people of Embakasi West require better infrastructure. They need better roads. I think my constituency has one of the worst roads in Nairobi County. We get water once a week or none at all. We have raw sewage. When it comes to education, my constituency has 14 public schools versus a population of 284,000. That makes, we have about 120 students in each classroom, and that's even on the lower side. One of my wards, Molem ward, has only one primary school, Umoja 1, Umoja 2. Those are two wards, they share one secondary school. And I come from a constituency where bursaries are issued on a first-come, first-served basis, and only the first 1,200 to queue benefits from those bursaries. Something has to change. My constituency land ownership is one of the biggest issues that we have. People don't have title deeds. One of my wards, which is Molem ward, which has a population of 89,000, 70% of the ward is unadjudicated land. So 70% of those people don't have titles. And whenever you hear of demolitions in Nairobi, this is the ward that always has the highest number of demolitions. So that has to come to an end. When I talk about women and youth empowerment, it's straightforward. They need funds, they need training, they need jobs, they need opportunities. That's what the women and the youth in my constituency have been lacking, and that's what they send me here for. And more so for the youth, even in our sports infrastructure. I come from a constituency where I don't have any stadium, I don't have public grounds where some of the young men can do their sporting activities. This is something that is quite unfair, considering that there are quite a number of these facilities in Nairobi, but my constituency lacks that. So those are some of the things and many others that I would want to really look at, and hopefully going forward will represent the people of Embakasi West. Madam Speaker, allow me, because even if we are past that issue, I didn't get a chance to contribute to the President's speech. There were some positives, at least CDF he spoke about retaining CDF, but as a Member of Parliament from Nairobi, I felt the 25% that is based on wards punishes some of us, because we have some of the most populous constituencies in Nairobi, and I believe this 25% should have considered population rather than the wards. So this is something that I would, going forward, I'd want to seek a review of this and hopefully get more funds for some of the Nairobi constituencies, as I'll explain a bit later on. I believe the President spoke about education and health, and that's good. But it is time this country, where the government should give us a direction. You know, CBC 844, we cannot gamble with the lives of our children. And some of us who are young are the ones who've got kids going through these schools. So we need to be sure. And we cannot be changing it every 10 years. So we need, whatever happens, whatever comes out, it must be final and it must last a generation. I think having the cabinet on the floor is a good idea, but this should not be a place for them to come grandstanding. They should respond and hopefully be fair and respond to both sides. The Hustler Fund, I think it's a good idea, but I felt the President's speech limited it. When he spoke, it will be issued through technology. That is not the promise that the President had told people when he was campaigning. I think at some point he had said he'd make it quite easy and be distributed by the members of Parliament. The Hustler Fund should be made accessible and quite easy for people to apply. I also wish to note that our country seems to be suffering from a campaign hangover, and we saw it even here today. And it's time we need to accept that somebody won. We competed elections are over and we can't keep campaigning again. And I think the president said that he's the bigger brother now. And my colleagues from the other side need to recognize that they're the bigger brothers now. So let us not grandstand anymore. Let us allow our country to move forward. Yesterday I had the opportunity, the president was in Embakasi Central, and he visited my constituency. And some of the things that I felt he should have spoken in his presidential speech, he did it when he was out there, when he was going around. The majority leader today accused the leader of opposition, Raila Odinga, of going around. The president is doing that, and he spoke of some quite important issues. And it's at times during these public gatherings that we are able, actually that's why all of us are here. Without those public gatherings, none of us would have been elected. And yesterday I had the president speak about here in Nairobi increasing the number of schools, ensuring that we have title deeds. We sort out all the issues of land matters in Nairobi within 12 months. We open the markets. And then coming to the substantive motion, the school feeding program. Madam Speaker, I want to recognize that the governor of Nairobi has proposed that all members of Nairobi build kitchens so that he can facilitate the school feeding program through those kitchens. I would hope that the governor of Nairobi, and we thank him, that he would write to the members of parliament from Nairobi County and formally communicate this position to ensure that we can feed our children, especially here in Nairobi, because this is something that a lot of parents have, especially during our campaign times, were raising this issue quite a number of times. And I think this is long overdue. Those of us who were in school in the 90s remember Maziwa ya Nyayo. So it is nothing that is unheard of. And I think I want to support this motion. I think it is long overdue. And just as I conclude once again, I'd want to just reiterate that for those who have won, especially the government side, you need to bring the country together. The country is taking too long to heal. And we cannot accept, we can't let the country continue the same way. And we have a choice here. We can follow the Kibaki route, where Kibaki united, even despite Moi, who opposed his candidature. We can go the route that Kibaki took, or take a new route, which I don't think is the right one. So with that, I thank you, and I look forward to working with the rest of the members. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Now we'll go to the member for Mbeere North, Geoffrey Ruko.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I want to contribute to the motion on school feeding program. Tomorrow, Madam Speaker, I will be having a meeting with the heads of primary schools teachers in my constituency, Mbeere North. And it is true, Mbeere North is facing very serious crisis as far as drought is concerned. I have seen it circulating in the news, in the media, that some of the kids have resorted into eating wild fruits because of the drought crisis we have. And it's extremely shameful that almost 60 years after independence, we are not able to feed ourselves as a nation. We are glaring, we are experiencing very humiliating situations which should not be happening. As we come up with a school feeding program, which may be, say, a short-term approach to take care of the problem of food in this country, I think it is important, Madam Speaker, we have short-term programs. At the same time, we have mid-term programs and long-term programs of dealing with drought cases or crises in this country. One of the members here has mentioned the issue to do with climate change, which is compounding all these issues into a serious crisis. It is important to put a framework which can guide the monies which is coming from climate financing to ensure this money is properly used by Kenya to take care of such calamities or such crises which we are having at the moment. What I mean, Madam Speaker, is that if this House can propose and propose and enact a bill on climate financing, which will enable dams, huge dams, for instance, in my constituency, the designs are complete of a very huge dam called Kamukunji Dam, which costs about 23 billion Kenyan shilling, but the government cannot be able to support that 23 billion shilling so that the people of Beira North can have sustainable water and the issue of drought in Beira North can be a thing of the past. We must come up with innovative ways. One of them was proposed by the President in this House, that water purchase agreement will be enacted and will be formed by the government of the day, but at the same time, we need to harness all the funding or money coming into the country in form of climate financing so that it can have huge, it can implement huge projects which can mitigate or which can adopt the effect of climate change. This huge project can be ensuring in every county. In the Republic of Kenya, we have dams, mega dams, which can serve all corners of this country to ensure we have enough water to irrigate our farms, and drought, and the lack of food in our household, in our schools can be a thing of the past. However, in the short term, Madam Speaker, it is extremely important we move with speed so that the government of the day can be able to feed the children in our schools. They are going hungry every single day. Some of them are dropping out of school. The end teachers are facing huge crisis because they cannot be able to sustain these children in school. Primary education is free, Madam Speaker, but you realize, or it is true, that we are having very many kids being sent home in primary schools because of small monies, which parents cannot be able to afford. So we need to know also to what extent the primary school education is free. Why are we facing now and then that primary kids are being sent home? And then we are told that the national government CDF fund cannot support those parents who are unable to pay 200 bob, 500 bob for ensuring that we have a watchman in primary school, for ensuring that we have support staff in primary school. Of course, those monies are needed by the head teachers of those schools. Then the disbursement of money from the Ministry of Education to primary schools. You realize in a term, Madam Speaker, the amount of money which is going to these schools is ranging between 30,000 and below. 30,000 cannot be able to sustain a primary school for a term. So let the government be committed to what it says. If it's a free primary education, let it be free. Let it be totally free. It is extremely bad and shameful to see very poor kids going home and the parents who are not able to raise 200 bob staying with a kid home for a week, and at the same time they are not able to feed those kids when they are home. Madam Speaker, I beg to support this motion as a short-term way of taking care of the crisis which is going on in the country, but as a nation, we need to think in terms of the long term and how we can have innovative ways of raising money which can ensure we avert the crisis of drought in this country once and for all. I beg support, Madam Speaker, and I thank you.
Thank you. The next chance will go to member for Kitui South, Rachel Nyamai.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me a chance to contribute to this motion. I would like from the onset to say that I do support the motion, and I congratulate my friend, the Honorable Elsie Muhanda, for coming up with such a good motion at this moment in time. Madam Speaker, before I proceed, I would like to congratulate the substantive Speaker for being elected, the Deputy Speaker for being elected to preside over this August House. And Madam Speaker, I would like to also congratulate you for presiding over this House this afternoon. It's a privilege from the Speaker. And also I would like to thank the Speaker for accepting our names, the 6 of us, to be able to serve. And I also I believe I can speak on behalf of my colleagues that we will do our best and will be fair. I would like to take this opportunity, Madam Speaker, to thank the people of Kitui South for electing me for a 3rd term in this House. I know that this is not a mean achievement, and I really thank them, the people of Ikanga, the people of Chatune, the people of Motomo, Kibwea, the people of Madhima, the people of Moda, the people of Kanziko, people of Simisi, people of Kasala, Ikuda, and people of Adi, Ward, and Maluma. Thank you so, so much. I want to promise you that I will do my best to deliver the promises that I made, Honorable Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is one of the elections that I made the highest number of promises. I've never made this kind of promises in any other election. And I would like to say that with the help of God and this House, the power that it has, and also with the blessings of the people, I will do my best to deliver. Madam Speaker, let me also take this opportunity to thank those who volunteered to support me, closed their businesses in Nairobi and went to the ground to help me. The youth, the women, all of you, I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you so much and may God bless you. Madam Speaker, allow me to go to the motion for today. I just say that I support this motion. It is a very, very important motion which addresses the matter of coming up with a policy that will ensure that we have school feeding program. Madam Speaker, my constituency, Kitui South, is one of the most affected constituencies in this country. We have children that are not attending school. We have children that have actually already dropped out because there is no food at home. Some are assisting their parents to get manual jobs here and there so that they can get food. Madam Speaker, having this policy will ensure that we get a way of ensuring that we have healthy children, and these healthy children will be able to perform better in school. This will ensure that we have children transiting from primary to secondary and possibly to tertiary institutions. That will bring sustainable development in our constituencies. So, by having this policy, which will eventually, hopefully, become a bill, which will hopefully become an act of parliament, which will hopefully one day have it been funded, just like the other programs that have been funded through this House. I hope that we can get there. Madam Speaker, health is wealth. The biggest wealth we have in this country is our children. Beyond provision of electricity, beyond provision of roads, beyond everything that we do, our children are number one. So I would like to support that we need to have this policy as soon as possible after this motion is passed by this House. Madam Speaker, when this policy is being passed, Madam Speaker, we could think of identifying ways where the sourcing of food is done from the local areas. When this happens, Madam Speaker, we'll be able to promote small businesses within those communities and eventually develop the small business men and women within the local areas. Madam Speaker, I would like to say that we have a very good NGO in my constituency called Homegrown that has done very well in terms of providing food in some of the schools. We are engaging to see whether we can get more. However, Madam Speaker, it is important to note that most NGOs that are providing food are also calling upon government to come up with proper policies and plans so that government itself can finance this. And this matter has been raised by Homegrown. It has been raised by another organization called Food for Education, East Africa Children's Fund, and Mary's Meals. Madam Speaker, this matter that our colleague is raising, I think it also resonates very well with these NGOs that are asking that we have a proper policy, we have a proper rules and regulations, we have proper financing that can eventually ensure that our children are getting food. Madam Speaker, if this happens, it will ensure that the children in my constituency are able to go to school. The stories that I'm getting from the constituency, Madam, that we have a situation where teachers are bringing concentrated tea with a lot of sugar, so that during break time, if they realize that some of the children are getting frail, then they give them that tea so that it can sustain them. So this is the time that this August House raises to the occasion so that we can ensure that we have this policy, and then we take the other steps that will ensure sustainable financing. Madam Speaker, as my colleagues have spoken, the member for Wajir who has left and the honorable member for Mbere East who has just spoken before me, they are talking about sustainability. And it is time we know that, yes, we are going to feed the children now and in the near future, hopefully, if we get this policy. But the issue is about ensuring that we get provision of water in especially these ASAL areas. Because when we have water, then we will be able to get sustainable food production, and then we will be able to feed the children. Madam Speaker, my last point will be a call to our principals and our head teachers in our schools that this is a very, very difficult moment. And we would like to ask them as a parliament that we are requesting them, if possible, they come up with some form of agreements with the suppliers. Because I walked into the marketplace in my constituency in Motomo, and I saw uniform of children from various secondary schools, and all of them were being sent home for fees. Yes, we do not have CDF, and some of these children, most of them, depend on CDF. I would like to call upon the head teachers, the principals, kindly give the house a chance. Engage the suppliers of food. Kindly keep the children in school. And hopefully, in the very near future, the matter of CDF will be sorted out, and CDF will assist you to pay the bills. Madam Speaker, with that, I would like to thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to speak. May God bless you.
Thank you, too, for your kind words. The next chance will go to the Honorable Member for Yatta, Honorable Robert Basil.
Use this one. Are you able to locate me? Use this one. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Allow me to thank you for being in the panel and also serving us today. I also want to thank the Honorable Speaker Wetangula and the Deputy Speaker, and also allow me to thank Yatta people for voting me as a Member of Parliament. It was not an easy walk, and more so people queued for long hours to cast their vote in my favor. So the best way to thank them is actually to serve them. I also want to take this moment to thank my campaign team and my family, more so the First Lady of Yatta, Madam Jacqueline Kagia. Key issues in my constituency include, one of them is actually the road infrastructure. Yatta has been marginalized for long. You can imagine, Madam Speaker, we have people who have never seen a tarmac road, particularly when you talk of the key roads, Kilimani to Katangi, Matu to Katangi, and Dalani to Makuyu. These are very essential roads to open the economy of Yatta constituency. Another important thing to recognize is the cost of living, which is above the roof. Currently, we can talk of maize is retailing, 90 kilogram of maize is retailing at 6,000 shillings in Yatta constituency, when in 2017, it was retailing 2,400. And most of the people are earning less than $1 in a day. These are key concerns which the government needs to take into consideration. Another important thing to factor is Yatta Dam. This has been a talk for decades, and it is very key that we have Yatta Dam because a lot of people will get water through Yatta Dam. And another important thing is desilting Yatta Canal, which is serving so many people, and Yatta today we should be exporting, but we cannot export because water supply is not guaranteed. Importantly, we need Huduma Center to be able to support Yatta people and also to support Masinga constituency, because majority of people from Yatta and Masinga, they are all relying on Huduma Center from Machakos, and they have to travel and in car more than 300 shillings one way, so to and fro, that's 600 shillings. Something to remember, unemployment is above the roof, and most of the youth, they are leaving schools and working with the papers, certificates, diplomas, and degrees without work. So this is something important, and the government needs to take consideration to open the economy to absorb people who are leaving school. We also have teachers who are waiting to be employed, and you can imagine someone stomaching till they reach the age of 40s, and they have never been employed. The only thing they have is a TSC number. This is something that the government needs to consider. Title deeds. In Yatta, we have hundreds and thousands, 100 to, I would say, if not 100,000 of people who are squatters, and most of these people need title deeds. We are talking of 59 years since Kenya became attained self-rule, and there are people without title deeds. So I would imagine the government should take this into consideration. It's a pertinent issue in Yatta constituency. Something else which I want to bring to the attention of the House is actually electricity. We have many schools, villages without electricity, and as a member of parliament, I would love the government to take into consideration more so the rural electrification program. Back to the motion, I want to contribute meaningfully because motion to do with school feeding program is very essential. I'm a beneficiary of Maziwa ya Nyayo, and our kids should actually enjoy school feeding programs, because this contributes to Sustainable Development Goals 4 and 3 on equality, quality education, as well as good health and well-being. So these are motion I fully support, and more so is going to shoulder the burden parents are going through to be able to raise food or to pay food for schools, for their kids who are attending school. It's also going to boost retention, and we cannot ignore. So this is a motion I fully support, and I hope we can entrench school feeding program in the CDF so that at least we can have it budgeted and money allocated to provide food to kids going to school. So with those remarks, I did not have a chance to contribute to the presidential debate, and I want to say there's something which catched my eye. When you talk of ASLA fund, my question is, are we trying to baptize Uwezo Fund and to call it ASLA Fund? Because Uwezo Fund tends to provide or to serve the same function ASLA Fund is supposed to come and serve. So what was wrong with the Uwezo Fund, which motivated the end of state to bring ASLA Fund? This is something we need to look into to be able to take lessons learned from ASLA Fund to inform lesson learned from Uwezo Fund to inform ASLA Fund. Otherwise, it will be duplication of efforts to create another fund which is serving the same purpose and the same function like Uwezo Fund. On matters to do with the corruption, as a member of parliament, Kenya has really slowed on matters of development because of corruption. We are seeing people who have been accused or withstanding cases of graft finding themselves in elective positions and others landing to very Jewish allotment or appointment in government. So it is important for our government to tell us what are they doing differently from Jubilee government to tame matters of corruption. So as a member of parliament, this is a key concern, because if corruption was meaningfully tamed, like it has happened in Singapore and Finland, then Kenya would be on the next move to be a proper middle economy, middle income, like other nations of the world. These would guarantee people live in schools will get employment, as opposed to what we are seeing today. And this is a serious concern for all of us. So we need to really meaningfully look into this. So thank you. And lastly, it's important to recognize the most important thing and the outstanding thing that came from the president's speech. This was where he said on number 28 that the government is not going to borrow to invest on a recurrent or to fund recurrent expenditure. This was a good point, because you cannot borrow, or it's like borrowing money from a bank to pay rent. So when he said the government is not going to borrow to invest on a recurring expenditure, that one I fully support him. But on other matters, please, let's reconsider them. Otherwise, we are not doing well as a government. You can imagine the debt ratio today, that is the debt ratio to the GDP, stands at 67.4. And this is limiting the capacity of government to invest on development, and is one of the key contributors to the unemployment that we are seeing, and which is above the roof. Thank you. I rest my case.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Member for Nakuru County.
Asante sana Madam Speaker kunipatia nafasi nichangie mjadala ambaye imeletwa katika bunge la 13 na Mheshimiwa Muhanda ambaye nafikiria ameondoka kidogo. Na Madam Speaker, kabla sijaongea kuhusu mjadala, ninataka kushukuru Mwenyezi Mungu kwa kusimama na sisi wakati ya kuomba kura, kwa kutembea na sisi na kutupatia amani katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Nataka kupongeza President wetu Honorable Dr. William Ruto na naibu wake kwa kuongoza mambo ya siasa ama mambo ya campaign katika nchi yetu kwa njia ya amani. Nawapongeza sana, na wapongeza pia wenye wamechaguliwa kuwa speaker, deputy speaker, na hata wewe Mheshimiwa Honorable Wangare kutoka constituency ya Kilgil, pia nakupongeza kwa kuchaguliwa kuwa panel ya speakers. Nataka kuchukua hii nafasi pia kuwashukuru sana wananchi wa Nakuru kwa kunipatia nafasi ya 3 pia niwe katika bunge la taifa kuwakilisha hao kwa mambo yao. Tunajua kiti yetu ya Mama County inajulikana ni ya women rep, lakini kwa kusema kweli tunachaguliwa na watu wote na inafaa tuhudumie watu wote. Hasa sana vijana, hasa sana wamama na people with disabilities sama wasiojiweza katika maisha yao. Ninataka kuambia watu ya Nakuru na washukuru sana, na washukuru kutoka Kuresoi South, Kuresoi North, Molo, Njoro, Rongai, Nakuru Town West, Nakuru Town East, upande wa Bahati, Subukia, Gilgil, mpaka Naivasha. Na washukuru sana na ninawaombea Mungu awabariki sana. Ninawa promise kwamba tutafanya kazi pamoja kwa njia ya amani. Mimi ni moja ambaye ningependa sana kuwa moja ya wale ambaye watapromote ama watainua mambo ya amani katika nchi yetu ya Kenya, hasa kutoka Nakuru. Kwa hivyo nataka kuwapongeza sana wananchi wa Nakuru kuendesha mambo ya campaign na uchaguzi ya amani, na singependa kusahau pastors ambayo walisimama kuombea nchi yetu. Na wabarikisha sana wachungaji wetu, na ninajua hawakupumzika wakati huo wote, na Mungu aliweza kusikia maombi yetu. Nasema ni shukrani. Madam Speaker, nikikuja mjadala ya leo ambayo inahusu mambo ya kulisha watoto wetu katika shule, nataka kupongeza mheshimiwa ambaye ameleta mjadala huu kwenye bunge hili. Nina support mambo ya kulisha watoto. Nasema hivi Madam Speaker, sababu tunaelewa kwamba tunapitia shida kama nchi yetu ya Kenya, na wazazi wengi hawana uwezo ya kulisha watoto wao nyumbani. Na tunaelewa kwamba kwa masomo, ili mtoto aweze kusoma vizuri na hata kupita vizuri, anafaa
kupatiwa chakula ya kutosha. Tunapoongea mambo ya utaratibu ya jinsi vile watoto wetu watalishwa, inahitajika kwamba itaangaliwa kwamba watapata chakula ambayo inafaa ama chakula ambayo inaitwa special diet, ambayo ninaelewa kwamba itahitajika proteins, itahitajika carbohydrates na mambo mengine. Kwa hivyo chakula yenyewe ningependa kusema chakula iwe ni chakula ambaye wakulima wa Kenya watachangia, sababu hawa ndio wakulima, wanalima mahindi, wanalima viazi, wanalima ndengu, wanalima maharagwe. Wapatiwe nafasi katika mashule in their respective, katika constituencies mahali wanatoka. Kwa hivyo nachukua hii nafasi kuambia wenzangu MPs ama wajumbe ambaye wanaketi kwenye bunge hili kusema, nafikiria tutachangia pamoja kuhakikisha kwamba yale chakula itakuwa ikipelekwa kwa shule ni yale chakula ambaye tutaguza, wale wakulima wetu wa Kenya wataguza. Itakuwa ni jambo mbaya, Madam Speaker, tuseme tunataka kupanga mpango ya kulisha watoto katika nchi yetu, alafu upate kuna chakula itatoka upande wa nje. Hatungependa kusikia kuna chakula imetolewa katika nchi nyingine nje ya nchi hii walishe watoto wetu. Tunataka watoto wetu walishwe na wakulima wa Kenya ambaye pia hawa ndio wazazi ya hawa watoto, wapatiwe nafasi. Na nataka kusema hivi, Madam Speaker, hatuwezi tukaongea tu mambo ya chakula. Ili mtoto aweze kupita lazima apatiwe kila kitu ambaye anahitaji. Naongea hivi sababu najua saa hizi tuko katika masomo curriculum mpya ama masomo mapya ambaye inaitwa CPC, ambaye vitu mingi sana inahitajika. Ili mtoto aweze kupita baada ya kukula, anahitajika pia kuwa na yale mambo yote ambaye wanatakikana wawe nayo. Katika masomo ya CBC, Madam Speaker, unaelewa kuna vitu mingi sana ambaye inahitajika. Kwa hivyo ni sharti katika policy ama katika mkakati ya kupanga kuhakikisha kwamba watoto wapate chakula, iangaliwe ni nini tena watoto wanahitaji ili waweze kupita. Kwa hivyo nataka kuwapongeza wabunge wote ambaye walichaguliwa wafike kwenye bunge hii. Ninajua ili maendeleo ifike pale chini ama pale nyumbani imepita kwa sababu ya CDF. Kwa hivyo naunga mkono kwamba CDF na pesa yote ya serikali, mambo ya pesa ambayo inapitia ofisi ya Mama County, pesa ambayo inapitia ofisi ya Women Enterprise Fund na Youth Enterprise Fund iwekwe kwenye katiba, sababu hii ndio pesa inaguza na inasaidia mwananchi wa kawaida. Hivyo nataka kusema mambo ambayo itapangwa chini ya kupatikana kwa chakula ni wakulima ya nchi yetu ya Kenya ndio watapatiwa nafasi wapeane chakula. Tunajua watoto wetu hawana kazi, watoto wetu wengi wamemaliza shule na hawana kazi. Kuna watu ambaye wasiojiweza katika mili zao, wapatiwe pia nafasi kama ni supplies waweze kufikiriwa. Nataka kuchukua hii nafasi kusema nilifurahi sana katika hotuba ya rais alipoongea mambo ya agriculture, na akaongea kwamba serikali ya Kenya kwanza itapunguza fertilizer na chochote ambaye inahitajika, na ili inapatia nafasi mkulima aweze kuwa mkulima bora. Nilifurahi sana, na unapokuguza maisha ya mkulima katika nchi yetu ya Kenya unaguza maisha ya kila mmoja. Kwa hivyo nataka kupongeza rais kwa kutilia maanani mambo ambayo alikuwa amesema wakati tulipokuwa tukiomba kura. Kwa hivyo sisi wote tuungane kama wajumbe katika bunge hili la 13, tuungane pamoja na tuangalie. Sisi wote tumekaa pamoja, tulete nchi yetu wawe kitu kimoja, na tuangalie na tuangazie mahitaji ya wananchi katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Kwa hayo machache, Madam Speaker, Mungu akubariki. Nimefurahi sana. Tumepata msichana moja kutoka Nakuru. Mnaelewa kwamba wajumbe wenzangu, mnaelewa kwamba Nakuru imejulikana kwamba kuna wasichana 5 ama wangapi, ama ni kaunti ya wasichana. Na mwenye maketi leo kama deputy ama ameketi leo kama speaker ni msichana ametoka kwetu Nakuru. Tuko na msichana ambaye anatuongoza Nakuru. Mnaweza fikiria mimi ndio ninaongoza sababu mimi ni mama county. Kuna msichana ambaye anatuongoza katika Nakuru ambaye ameketi kama governor wa Nakuru, Honorable Susan Kihika. Tuko na senator wetu Thabita Karanja, alafu Liz Chelule mwenye anaongea sasa kama msichana namba 3. Alafu msichana namba 4 ni Jane Kihara ambaye amekuwa akiketi hapa saizi, nafikiri ameondoka kidogo. Yeye ndio mjumbe wetu kutoka Naivasha. Alafu msichana mwingine tumeketi na yeye pia hapa, Mheshimiwa Charity Kadhambi kutoka Njoro. Mheshimiwa Mother Wangare ni msichana wa 4 na msichana moja pia anatoka Bahati. Kwa hayo machache ninaomba kuketi. Asanteni sana.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa, pia kwa kongole zako. Atakayefuata sasa ni Mheshimiwa wa kaunti ya Turkana, Mheshimiwa Cecilia Ngitit. I cannot see you, Honorable Russell.
Thank you, Honorable Madam Speaker.
Members, we cannot have 2 members on their feet. We cannot have 2 members on their feet. Honorable Russell, please take your seat until I give the point of order. Honorable Ngitit is on her feet until I see your card, Honorable Russell.
Thank you, Honorable Madam Speaker. My name is Cecilia Ngitit. For the sake of record, the woman representative for Turkana County. I would like to take this opportunity, Madam Speaker, to thank you for giving me this chance. Then secondly, I would like to take this chance to thank the Almighty God for enabling me to be in the August House. It was not easy. It wasn't a walk in the park. It was a difficult race, but God made it for me. I thank God. Secondly, I would like to thank the people of Turkana for trusting in me. We had great women in that race, but they chose on me. Not that I was better than others, but the favor and the grace of God fall on me. I thank God for that. I would like to take this chance to personally congratulate the Honorable His Excellency President William Samoei Ruto and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua for being elected. I also would like to congratulate the Speaker, Honorable Wetangula, his deputy, Madam Gladys Bosholei, and I extend my gratitudes and congratulations to the leaders of the other house, the upper house. Being a Kenya Kwanza member, I'm proud of the speakers of both houses came from our coalition. I'm a happy legislature. Madam Speaker, I would like to...
The honorable member is making her maiden speech. She will not be interrupted. She will be heard in silence.
Honorable Speaker, I would like to thank the people of Turkana County, starting from Turkana Central, Turkana North, Turkana West, Turkana South, Loima, and Turkana East, in that order. These people humbled me. As I was campaigning, I offered myself to them. I gave them the promises that I wished to deliver later on in this house, and they trusted me. They had my word, they believed in me, and elected me. I would like to thank them all. I want to take this special chance to also thank my family, beginning from my husband. I had the governor, the woman governor for some county, struggling to place her husband like a county gentleman. And I don't know how the husbands of the women reps will be referred to. I don't know, the county man or what. I would like to thank my husband for supporting me. I would like to support a clique of friends, Warembo Naishu. I would like to thank the church. Many of them stood with me. They prayed for me. Many people fasted for my sake. Thank you so much. God bless you. Madam Speaker, Turkana County is placed in a very unique position. We border 3 international boundaries. We border Ethiopia, we border South Sudan, we border Uganda. This puts Turkana in a very advantageous position and disadvantageous at the same time. Especially on the insecurity matters, our boundaries expose us to external aggression.
the Turkana people lose lives and livestock to the neighboring countries, I mean, and even internally, we are still vulnerable. Just in the weekend, I came from burying very eminent members of my society that we lost to banditry. Turkana County is one vulnerable county, Madam Speaker, that this country has to take note of the challenges, the unique challenges that we go through. Apart from losing lives to the internal conflicts, the external ones need to be looked at. Because fighting an international country like Ethiopia, South Sudan, and Uganda, and there are no army deployed in those boundaries, we are the people taking care of those boundaries. Madam Speaker, it is my wish that for the first time, the government in place today will look into the special placement of Turkana so that the army is deployed in those international boundaries. About the banditry one, I think we will have discussions going forward. It has become a menace. It affects many counties here, and surprisingly, the perpetrators seem to come from one specific place. That is a discussion for another day, Madam Speaker. And to today's motion of school feeding program, Madam Speaker, I want to admit that I'm one of the beneficiaries of school feeding program. Were it not for the food in schools, I wouldn't be here today. Being brought up from a poor county and from a poor family for that case, I would only go to school because there was food. And by good chance, I got to learn. And that is why there is a woman rep for Turkana County today. School feeding program for those of us who come from drought-stricken counties is a key topic to be discussed. I want to congratulate the member of parliament who brought that motion today to the floor of the House, and I support the motion. Madam Speaker, as we speak today, drought is ravaging our counties, especially Turkana County. We have no land for farming. We only depend on our livestock. And when drought strikes, there is no pasture for our livestock. We go to nearby countries, like for instance now, the Turkana people are in Uganda in search for pasture. The Turkana people are in South Sudan in search for pasture. And they are exposed to external and international humiliation in those countries. At times, their livestock remains there when they come back to Kenya. Please, Madam Speaker, the drought topic has to be looked at. Although we cannot command rain, but Kenya has to put ways of measures that will be cushioning us so that next time we have drought, we know what is supposed to be done. Madam Speaker, for school feeding program, Turkana County stands to be the most special county that needs to be fed, not even schools alone, but even the adults. We lose people to hunger today. Many malnutrition cases are being reported in Turkana County, Madam Speaker. It is not about school feeding alone, extended to even adult feeding. In Turkana, we have no farms. In Turkana, we don't practice agriculture because of our climatic conditions. It is not our liking. I think if we had good climate conditions, because we have expansive land, we would be a county that is feeding this country. But because our land is not arable, I think that's why we are looking up to you people in up country to be feeding Turkana County and other counties like Marsabit, Samburu, and Northeastern. Madam Speaker, I'm so delighted to speak to the August House today for the first time, and going forward, we will be contributing to the topics. And finally, as I take my seat, I want to rely heavily in the promises my party leader, the President of the Republic of Kenya, gave to Kenyans in a document called the Plan. In the Plan, all our needs have been mentioned there. All our problems have solutions there. And I know, being the action-oriented leader he is, I know he will deliver. Then about the NGAF, the Women Fund for the vulnerable groups, I've had the president assure the women leaders of this country many times that he will deliberately enhance that fund so that to reach out to many hustlers down there, and we are still looking forward to that. Thank you, Madam Speaker. God bless Kenya. God bless Turkana. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to also note that if you're making your maiden speech, please note to the House, you will be heard in silence, and even points of order are not permitted when you're making your maiden speech. And I want to make that clear because Honorable Raso was out of order in the first place. The next member to speak will be Member for Keio South, Gideon Kimayo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
What is out of order, Honorable GK from DIA?
Madam Speaker, we have members here who have not had an opportunity to address the House or to contribute to motions in the House. Myself, I've been seated here for the last, I think, 7 days. So every day, 5 hours, and not getting an opportunity to address the House. I want to request, Madam Speaker, that you limit the time per member from 10 minutes to 5 minutes so that we can all get an opportunity to say something. It's unfortunate, Madam Speaker. I was so prepared to say something about or to contribute to the President's speech, but I did not get an opportunity, even after sitting here for 5 hours per day waiting. Kindly, Madam Speaker, limit the time per
Thank
member.
you, Honorable GK. And I want to make it clear that, please take, just hold on. You cannot limit the time in the middle of a motion. That would be against the standing orders. That should have been done from the start. But I also want to note, there are also members here who have never really spoken in Parliament. If we would be magnanimous enough, then we'll have more of us speak. And that is why we have extended this sitting up to 9 o'clock tonight, so that we're able to give as many members as possible to speak. And when you're given within 10 minutes, you don't have to take all of it. You can take 5, you can take 2, and more members will get the chance to talk. So let us go to the member for Keio South, Gideon Kimayo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mine is not a maiden speech, but I'm contributing to the motion on the school feeding program. At the independence of this country, our forefathers talked about 3 problems. One of them was ignorance, diseases, and poverty. Today, we still face the same problems. And the motion by the Honorable Member of Parliament from Kakamega is addressing the issue of education. United Nations did some research, and they said 10 problems that will affect humanity in the next 10 years. One of them is education, one of them is democracy, one of them is environment, one of them is terrorism and war, one of them is water. And they highlighted solutions for all these issues. And among them, education was key in addressing all these issues. Myself, I have gone to school angry, so I know what it takes when the Member of Parliament comes with this bill, with this motion. It has taken true miracles for me to go to school. I was educated by the late Nicholas Biwott. I dropped out of school when I was in Form 3. I campaigned when I promised people that we will bring in school feeding program. So this motion is personal to me. And when I came to this house in the afternoon, I was the first one to log in. I was number 1, because I knew this is personal to me. As we contribute to this motion, I hope one day, one time, it is not only anchored as an act of Parliament, but somehow anchored in the Constitution in such a way that when we say free
primary education, there is the element of food in it, so that we don't just say free primary education, but we still have children who are suffering because there's no food. In my constituency, that's Keyo South, the areas of Kerio Valley, there is the problem of hunger. We thank the World Vision. They are doing something, but that is now an NGO. I know in the previous parliaments, this motion has been brought, and the government shut it down because they said there is no money to cater for it. But I believe there is money. If we can arrange to have the government, together with the NGO World Food Program, come together, we can have money to sustain this program. So this is a noble idea that it is timely. Let me address the importance of this program. One of them is that we'll have improved performance in school. Another one, it will bring equity. Today, we are talking about CBC, but when it comes to requirements in schools to cater for this CBC, those children who are in private schools are advantaged against those children in public primary schools where they cannot even afford a basic thing like a meal. This program also will improve on the health of our children, those malnutrition children in places where they cannot afford food. And in the long run, it will also assist in the issue of poverty. Education will be an equalizer for everybody. Whether you come from a rich or a poor family, education will be an equalizer. We are talking in the new regime about hustlers. When we talk about this feeding program, we're not talking about the dynasties. We're talking about the people on the grassroots, the hustlers. And it is a timely program since it will address the hustlers who form the larger part of this country. In school, once children have food, they will concentrate more. And this will allow better performance in school. In my constituency, when I was campaigning, I promised this program. I didn't know that immediately 1 week, 2 weeks down the line, we are in Parliament, this motion will come in. And I thank the Member of Parliament for bringing in. I want to assure my constituents that I am a firm believer of this program to feed our children in school. And I want to ask the government that schools, especially the primary schools, they have land which is empty in school. So if we say it's expensive, we can tailor-make this program in such a way that this empty land in schools can be used to plant maize, to plant beans, and that will reduce the cost of this program. Also, in the day secondary schools, a child in a day secondary school in the rural setup pays 1,000 for meals every term. The government promised free secondary day secondary school, but they still pay 9,000 shillings per year. If this program is introduced, it will cater for those meals, and day secondary school will be a reality which is free, not the one that we are promised today and parents still go to their pockets. In my constituents, we sat down with the stakeholders in the education sector, and we were looking at how we can make day school to be free without the parents going to their pockets to pay this 1,000 shillings every month. And I believe with this program, it will make now day secondary school to be free. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Honorable Member for Dagoretti North, Beatrice Elachi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, before I start in supporting this motion, I want to congratulate you and to also thank the Almighty God that indeed the girls who were mentored by Kibaki, we still keep our values. So I want to thank God for that and his soul, wherever he is. Having said that, Madam Speaker, this is a motion, Madam Speaker, that is so dear to my heart. Indeed, I want to thank Stanbic Bank because they've started the program in my constituency. I'm able to feed Gatina Primary School. We are still negotiating for Muslim Primary School and Kawangware Primary School as I prepare to bring the kitchen so that we can ensure at least 15,000 children are fed in school every day at lunchtime. I also want to thank the Honorable of Dagoretti South, Honorable KJ, and the Honorable of Nyali, who already, and Miremba also, and Aseka. This team has made us proud. They are able to feed their children within their constituencies. There's a wonderful girl called Wawera, who right now is feeding 80,000 kids across different counties. And I also want to thank her, Food for Education. She has this vision, and I'm hoping this House will follow up this vision to ensure that we have food for our children. In Nairobi, the most interesting thing is that we tend to ignore and think that when, and I'm not saying it in a bad way, when counties, the 13 counties, the ASAL counties, are in hunger, Nairobi is hit so badly. Today you'll find children running all over, Madam Speaker, in the shopping centers looking for food after school, which is very, very dangerous. And so this program brings in retention for children in school, but also ensures that you are able to safeguard our children so that they are not used by those who use them to peddle drugs. You'll find them at Lavington. A kid is just given a parcel to send to someone. They don't look in it. But because they want their 100 shillings to take home, you'll find many, many grown-ups in Nairobi using today children within the shopping malls to indeed transact drugs, and we need to deal with that, Madam Speaker. And therefore, I want to thank our leader, our woman leader, and a mother who has held most of us from Kakamega, Mama Elsie Muhanda, for just thinking as a mother and knowing very well this is what parents will need, indeed, for their children. To even have good grades, I think you need to be fed. And for us, even as who are here, we know very well that when a child is hungry, that child will be so helpless in class, will never concentrate. And so I want to pray that we pick this program, we look at our CDF Act, and indeed entrench it as a program. The 1.6 billion that the Ministry of Education is using, and I'm imagining right now the ASAL areas are crying, I wonder even if the children have food, should come now through the constituencies and be able now to feed the children. And that money is enough, Madam Speaker, to feed nearly the 290 constituencies if harnessed well, and parents are able to just subsidize, maybe with 5 shillings or even 6 shillings. Madam Speaker, when you look at the global world today, the people who are suffering are women, children. When you look at the urban areas, Nakuru, Nairobi, the cities, Kisumu, Mombasa, if we are not careful, we are going to lose a lot of our children. They are about to close school in the next just 1 month. I'm imagining what is going to explode in Nairobi, in Nakuru, in Kisumu, in the urban areas where children are there, they've closed school for 2 months, you even wonder what to do. I will also want to request the government. I know the regulations that were given to supply the foods were very strict, but I think I want to ask PS Marwa to really have mercy on some of the urban areas and just give food to schools so that those who are able to cook, they are able to cook for their schools, But this will help the children who are, especially the standard 8s and grade 6, and Form 4s who are going to do their exams very soon, to ensure they settle in class and standard 8, they are able to concentrate and be able now to perform. Madam Speaker, I want to urge this House. This is a motion that is going to save all of us. This is a motion that we need to think. I believe there is a framework already. The same framework that they were using, the Ministry of Education is using to disperse 1.6 billion, is the same framework we can enhance on and look at the regulations and ensure that we have clear regulations on how to guide the process, on how to ensure that every school in this country, you are able to feed our children. This is something the president also went to Dagoretti South when he was campaigning. He was able to see the kitchen. And therefore, I believe it is in his support, it is in the support of the governor to ensure Nairobi we are able to work together. And I am pleading also to other counties that work together as legislators and county assemblies to ensure we are able to feed our children. And therefore, Madam Speaker, as I support this, I know, not just me, but even the parents wherever they are, if we can do this for our country, if we can ensure we retain children in school, if we can ensure when you're walking, you find a child in Lavington and that time there's a feeding program, then that is the time we deal with the parents. But for now, it will be so difficult to even talk to the parent who himself or herself is about to go and sleep hungry, that why is your child at 10 p.m., at 9 p.m. in a shopping center, and that child, when you pick, Madam Speaker, I have picked many, when I go to their houses, indeed they were going to sleep hungry. Indeed they had nothing. And so I've realized it's a challenge, not a challenge where people are taking advantage, but indeed there is a big challenge in the country that we know drought has brought, yes, but also people, because of COVID, the post-COVID consequences is that many of our Kenyans are sleeping hungry. Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I beg to support and to really thank you and to congratulate you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member, for your kind words. The next speaker will be Honourable Member of Kieni, Anthony Wainaina. If he's not in the House, the next chance will go to the member for Bureti, Honourable Kibet Komingoi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think it's easier to please the voters in Kenya than to please the speakers. We've been here for several days, waiting for the chance to speak and make the maiden speech. However, I want to thank you for this opportunity. I would say that it pleased God and the people of Bureti to elect me, and I'm indeed very thankful for the people of Bureti in all the wards that we are there. Tebesonic Ward, Cheboin, Kapkatet, Cheblanket, Chemosot, Litain, and Kishara wards that gave us the overwhelming victory to be here in this parliament. I will not belabor much, but I want to talk about the issues that we have in Bureti that we will be addressing, and some of them were actually addressed as part of the President's speech. Bureti constituency is one of the constituencies that has no water in any of the taps in Bureti. We would be looking forward for the implementation of the 60 to 80% water that has been promised by the Kenya Kwanza team. Number two is that we'll be looking forward to engage in the construction of the infrastructure in Bureti region, Bureti constituency. We have roads that we are seeking to be tarmacked, the Chebwagan Kampala Road, the Bogoyot Kapkisiara Road, Chelilis Ketarwet Charera Road, and we are hoping that in this government, at these 5 years that we have, that we'll be able to see these developments come through. On education, Madam Speaker, we are hoping that the government has to reconsider some of its plans The teachers of Bureti have been asking me, and I'm sure some of you members have also received the same sentiments about the abuse or the failed delocalization program. We are hoping that the teachers will be sent back to their communities to be able to teach and be able to retire from their homes. Thirdly, Madam Speaker, we have the issues of the urban areas in Bureti. We are praying and hoping that in all programs that will be set out within the plan, that the hustler and the bottom-up approach that the UDA party and the Kenya Kwanza government is seeking to implement will also bring about the transformation of our traders, the mamambogas, to operate, not only in providing them capital, but also spaces to be able to work from. One of the critical things that we're looking into is decriminalization of work, so that you may be able to have all people doing whatever is legal to be able to earn a living. We'll be also seeking, and also one of the things that we'll want on the health sector is the upgrading of Kapkatet District Hospital, the upgrading of drainages at Kapkatet towns, and the Kapkatet Stadium, which we have been looking into for several years. On the motion on the table, I would want to support the school feeding program. There is a misnomer that I'm hearing being discussed about the drought in the regions. While there are some places in this country that are not facing drought, they are still facing food shortages. In our villages, however much we say we receive rain in Kericho and the environs, there are still homes and people who still sleep without food. This we must consider also to be able to provide food and also invest in the agriculture so that food may be provided. On the food program, my submission would be that we give priority to food that is grown within the region, so that we do not import food for the children that we are seeking to feed within our schools. Finally, Madam Speaker, I think I would agree with the Honorable Member for Dagoretti North that included in the basic primary education should be the feeding program. Included also within the CDF programs that we have is also the feeding program, to be able to cater for the disadvantaged within the communities. One thing that we must understand is that however communities may be rich, or however lands may be wet and that they receive rainfall, there are still pockets within our societies which are experiencing deficit on food, or people who are actually poor that they cannot afford food for their children and for themselves. It is therefore our submission that this motion be approved, and so that we can be able to see how it can be implemented. Finally, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be able to give this maiden speech, and also to remind ourselves that let justice and fairness be the guiding principle in our debates. Let also the time for logging in matter, so that we don't have people here sitting for too long before they actually get the opportunity to speak. Otherwise, Madam Speaker, thank you very much.
Honorable Member, the next speaker will be the Honorable Member for Quisero, Christopher Seka.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for also giving me an opportunity to contribute to this motion. But first, let me congratulate you for being part and parcel of the Speaker's panel. Congratulate also our Speaker, Tangula, and the Deputy Boss, Shuley. Let me also take this opportunity to thank the great people of Quisero constituency for also giving me an opportunity to serve them for the second term. Honorable Speaker, since Quisero was hived from Butere in 1997, through the grace of God, I'm the first privileged member of parliament to be re-elected to this august house. My commitment to them and my priority still remains to support our education sector to see to it that our children gets better out of every program. Madam Speaker, school feeding program is real and happening in Huisero. I initiated it in 2018 when we realized that the economical challenges, the social challenges that were facing our people were spilling over to our children. We came up with a basic meal, maize and beans, for all candidates in all public primary schools. It's not easy. It is something that requires a lot of attention. It has a serious financial implication. But as a Christian, it is said that service to humanity is service to God. Madam Speaker, I'll only share the positives for the last 5 years that we have witnessed in Huisero. One, the rate of school attendance, especially for candidates, went up. The contact hours between teachers and pupils increased because, Madam Speaker, you only need 30 minutes to serve lunch in a day and save another 45 minutes for some other supportive activities. This has enabled teachers to go through their syllabus, revision, and we have seen improved performance in our schools. Two, Madam Speaker, this program has improved the nutrition of our children, the health-wise, the attendancy, the concentration in class has gone up, and we have been able, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, to transit as many students as possible from primary school to secondary school. Madam Speaker, it has also eased burden on parents. At times in the village, as you know, every afternoon, every woman, every father needs to go back home and prepare lunch for their children. At times, when we have this program in school, parents will utilize that time for some more profitable economical activities. Lastly, so that I can also allow our new members to make their maiden speech, members have argued about the sustainability of this program. It is about strategy on how to do it. What we are doing from next year, we are now capitalizing our primary schools, those that have big tracts and chunks of land. As a foundation, we are giving them inputs. We are supporting them with fertilizers, certified seeds, so that they can produce within the school. We are also reaching out to non-governmental organizations to come in and support. And as I finish, Madam Speaker, let us align this and translate this motion into an act of Parliament. Despite the challenges of financial problems within the country, within the CDF and the amendment that we want to bring on the floor, we can allow and open up the CDF Act to allow us to spend on this recurrent expenditure over and above the infrastructure that we are doing, so that every member of Parliament can have a provision within the CDF budget to budget for this noble program. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I promise the people of Huisero the infrastructure's development in our schools will continue. I prioritize putting up, in collaboration with the national and county government, a Huisero level of hospital, and to operationalize a Huisero technical and training institution. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member, for your compliments. The next speaker will be the member of West Pokot County, Honourable Rael Kasiwai.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this golden opportunity to make my first ever speech since independence. being my first time in Parliament. Secondly, I want to congratulate the Speaker, Mr. Wetangula, and Madam Boss in their absentia for the election. I believe in them. I know they are going to deliver in this 13th Parliament. I also want to take this opportunity to thank you for carrying out the day's program. And because I'm a Christian and a strong Catholic for that matter, I want to thank the Almighty God for giving me good health and giving each one of us in this room good health. I also want to thank God for giving us a peaceful election. It was the most peaceful election ever. Madam Speaker, I want to now take this opportunity again to thank the people of West Pokot for overwhelmingly electing me as their third county member of Parliament. I want to thank the people of Kacheliba constituency, the people of Sigor constituency, the people of South Pokot constituency, and the people of Kapenguria constituency. I want to promise that I'm going to serve them diligently and with a lot of dedication. Madam Speaker, I want to also take this opportunity to thank all the teachers in my county. Being a teacher, they really supported me because they had a lot of confidence in me. And wherever they are, I promise that I'm going to argue motions that support education, because our county is one of those marginalized counties where the girl child is still not considered as someone with some importance. Madam Speaker, I also want to take this opportunity to promise the women of West Pokot, because there are those whom I promise that I'm going to work hard to ensure that the economy goes up using the GAV, although having seen the GAV issue, it is a real problem because it's very little money, but we hope the current government is going to do something, because if you look at the women and the youth and the people with disabilities, they are the majority in our society, and the money we're given to serve them is so little. So I also want to urge ladies or women MPs in this house that let's do something and see the president to do something on the same, because those people expect so much from us, and yet the money allocated to us is so little. Madam Speaker, West Pokot is one of the counties with a lot of challenges. Even in the media, you saw that it is one of the hard-hit counties when it comes to drought. Although we have 2 sub-counties that are doing crops, 2 of them are arid areas. That is Sigor constituency and Kacheliba constituency. The people living in those 2 constituencies are pastoralists because they cannot do crops due to lack of rains. And because of that, they have resorted into a nomadic type of life, which sometimes causes a lot of conflict with the neighboring counties, the neighboring countries like Uganda. When the president talked or gave his speech, he talked of subsidizing fertilizer, but he didn't talk much on pastoralism, which is a major problem in our county, because it has also resulted into insecurity because of conflicts as the neighboring counties and communities fight for the same, hence the insecurity. So we hope, or I hope that the president is going to do something on the same so that my people in those 2 sub-counties or constituencies are assisted. Madam Speaker, coming to the motion of today, I want to thank the Member of Parliament who came up with it. And I've just said I'm a teacher by profession. So I think the Member of Parliament had teachers in mind and my county in mind, because that is where there's real problem of school dropouts due to lack of food in schools. So, Madam Speaker, I want to support the motion tabled by the member because personally I'm a beneficiary of this program that was there a long time ago, like the Nyayo milk. That milk was so sweet, it would take us to school once you remember there is milk. So, Madam Speaker, I don't know where the rain started beating us so that such programs just disappeared. I thank this House because everybody who has spoken is supporting. Because school feeding programs has a lot of benefits in our schools. One of them being retention in schools. In my county, children go to school because of that food. Sometimes it is given by the world, that's the NGOs, but that amount of food is not enough, so it can be given for 2 or 3 days, it gets finished, and the children go back to stay at home. So, Madam Speaker, one of the benefits is retention, as I've said, and another importance of having this program in schools is that it reduces some infamous behavior in children, like stealing from each other. When the children are given food, same amount of food and same quantities, all of them will be fed uniformly. There will be no stealing because others may be having food, others may not have. So giving such things in school or food in schools will reduce the rates of stealing. Another importance of having food in school is that it will improve results. It improves results in the sense that children are going to be in school most of the time. They'll have enough time to revise, hence improvement of results. That one I've seen, and that's why I support this motion. Another effect or importance of having this program in schools is that it helps those learners from poor households, from poor homes, to go to school. I've said my county is one of the pastoral counties, therefore most parents don't have food due to lack of rains, so having food in school will help such children. I also want to say that the food program in schools will also improve the health of the children. And we all know that a healthy nation is a wealthy nation, so malnutrition will be done away with, hence we shall have healthy nation at the long run. Madam Speaker, the school feeding program has a lot of importance. I cannot mention all of them, but I know if we fully implement, I hope we are not just going to debate about it and leave it here. We hope the government is going to do something so that this program is fully implemented in schools to ensure our children go to school. Madam Speaker, about my county, I want to say that West Pokot.
Your time is up, Honorable Member. The next speaker would be nominated Member Honorable Suleha Harun.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. First, allow me to take this special opportunity to congratulate the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker for the election in this House, and also you as a member of this Speaker's panel. Madam Speaker, I'm new to this House, courtesy of the UDM party for having trust in me and nominating me to this 13th Parliament. Additionally, it will not be fair if I don't express my gratitude to the electorates who have elected a good number of members of Parliament to this House. Were it not their support, I wouldn't have been here today. In the same regard, I'm made to understand I'm the first woman ever nominated to this House from Mandera County, and I take pride in that status. Madam Speaker, I would like to support the motion, the development of the school feeding program, school feeding policy, to support the government efforts to ensure there is increased access, retention, transition, and completion rates across the country, especially in the ASALs of Kenya. I believe school meals will be a priority to be considered seriously. Madam Speaker, school meal programs provide